Emotions all over the place.
All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Okay, check this out, check this out, check this out. It's Friday. For me, at least, anyways. Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. West Coast America time, wherever you are in the world. Like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow. Hi, those of you who are in the chat. I can see that Brianna said something, and I'm not sure who the other person is because it's just coming as Facebook user, which means that we're still with Facebook having the same issue of when you're saying something. It looks like it's Denise for whatever reason. It wasn't coming through to the chat. Probably because you're in Old Ways, and I put it in Orion Rising as well. That's why I just happened to come here because I was going to share it from here to my page. So weird that it does that. So welcome. Like I said, share this out. It's Friday night. We're going to do the Law of One. We're going to be talking about the Law of One. We're on session 18 now, and that's kind of cool, right? I'm happy with that idea that we're moving along. We're going to be talking about now going into session 18. We're going to be talking about in the beginning here. You'll see about chemicals and the assisting of higher vibration with different drugs, and we'll be talking about that and the effects of that, and then foods, ascension foods. So we're going to be getting into that. I think quickly they go through that. First 4 or 5 questions is about that, and then they move on. But I want to cover that because that's kind of important. So we'll get into that. Okay, so like I said, share this out. I'm trying to share it out. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Orion Rising, the group, and Returning to the Old Ways, the group. And then I'm working on sharing it from then. But for whatever reason, hopefully, the sound's about to come on when I'm expanding, but I'm trying to share it out to other places while we're talking. So I apologize for that because that's the only way that I can now share this. In fact, it's even giving me a hard time with that in here. Right. So I have to copy the link and then share the live from there. It's Facebook's computer algorithm is acting weird. And sometimes it does that, and sometimes it doesn't. The interface is bizarre. Even though I'm on my laptop, the interface was a little weird and wonky there. So I got that shared out at least. But wherever you are, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, please share this out so we can get some more people coming in. But welcome to everybody who is here. See, Denise says that you're fine. You're fine there. And then there's someone else that came in that said, hi, all. I have to find where you are, too, to see who you are. Because for whatever reason, it's not coming through proper. That's annoying to me when it does that, right? So anyway, like I said, share it out so that we can get everybody covered that are going to be in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And let me know if the sound is okay. I'm pretty sure that it is, but you never can tell. I have it up to where I normally do in volume. So I'm going to let this play, and we'll start here. Like I said, we're 1981, February 4th, 1981, session number 18. Let's start with the Law of One right here and start talking about the chemicals.
February 4th, 1981. 18.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite creator. We communicate now. 18.1 Questioner. I was thinking last night that if I were in the place of RA at this time, the first distortion of the law of one might cause me to mix some erroneous data with the true information that I was transmitting to this group. Do you do this? Ra. I am Ra. We do not intentionally do this. However, there will be confusion. The errors which have occurred due to the occasional variation.
Now, and somebody let me know if you guys can hear that okay. Otherwise, I have to turn up the volume, but I'm assuming it's normally okay. Hopefully, it wasn't like dead air just then. So let me know in the chat what's going on there, like I said, and then we'll continue.
In the vibrational complex of this instrument due to its ingestion of a chemical substance. It is not our intent in this particular project to create erroneous information but to express in the confining ambience of your language system the feeling of the infinite mystery of the one creation in its infinite and intelligent unity. 18.2 Questioner. Can you tell me what the chemical substance is that was ingested? Causes poor contact? Ra. I am Ra. This is not a clear query. Could you please restate? 18.3 Questioner. You just stated that you had some problems with the instrument because of the ingestion by the instrument of some chemical substance. Can you tell me what the substance was? Ra. I am Ra. The substance of which we speak is called vibratory sound complex, LSD. It does not give poor contact if it is used in conjunction with the contact. The difficulty of this particular substance is that there is, shall we say, a very dramatic drop-off of the effect of this substance. In each case, this instrument began the session with the distortion towards extreme vital energy which this substance produces. However, this entity was, during the session, at the point where this substance no longer was in sufficient strength to amplify the entity's abilities to express vital energy. Thus, first the phenomenon of, shall we say, a spotty contact, and then, as the instrument relies again upon its own vibrational complexes of vital energy, the vital energy being in this case very low, it became necessary to abruptly cut off communication in order to preserve and nurture the instrument.
See, so this is why I bring this up, right? Yeah, LSD. Yes, Denise, LSD. So here's the thing. The reason I bring that up is because if you go all the way back to the 60s, so 60 years ago, and this was done in the 80s, so it was 40 years ago, right? Literally, people back then were experimenting with all of these drugs again, because the East, if you get outside of the West, the United States and Europe, or the Northern Hemisphere of the modern peoples, and which have forgotten all of the spiritual mindset, which is why I'm writing my book about it and everything else, and teaching you guys this stuff, is because they've lost that knowledge. So the people inadvertently, because LSD was introduced to the population of the United States and most of the world by the CIA. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think it's a conspiracy theory, but it was true. When in the 50s, going into the 60s and beyond, at least the United States government, because other governments were doing it prior, the German government in the 30s and 40s during World War II, pre and post World War II, that's why the idea came to the United States, because those scientists came over here to the United States. They were experimenting with controlling people with drugs. Pardon me. One of the problems that Adolf Hitler had, everybody thought he was like Satan. He was super evil. He wasn't. He was a little off. Yes, and he was angry. I read Mein Kampf. So if you've ever read Mein Kampf, he wrote that while he was in prison during World War I when he was a corporal in the German army. He grew up in an area that was overly populated and controlled by Jewish people. And what a lot of people don't know about Adolf Hitler is he was actually Austrian, but he was actually an Austrian Jew. He was actually half Jewish. Not a joke. So everyone thought that because he was talking about the master race being the Aryan race, and he claimed that part and hid from the world that he was actually half Hebrew, and didn't want anyone to know about that. And that was part of what angered him. I know I'm getting into the psychology of Hitler, but that was part of what angered him. And the banking system, all of the diamonds were owned by the Jewish people, still are to this day. So he was angry at that because he wanted to be on the inside of the cabal. He was a poor Austrian Jew that grew up in a poor area. And at the area that he grew up in, there was a lot of Jewish people, and they were, wealthy. So they looked down upon the Austrians, and so his whole life was angry. And when he grew up, he was angry at the Jewish people, and he took that out on them. But he wasn't as evil as everyone thought. And this is why I'm saying this. The government and the scientists of the Nazi Party were controlling him, and they were using medication, drugs, just like they do over here, and they did to like Elvis, and he died from it. Other people's who were also taking a bunch of stimulants and then trying to go to sleep, so they were taking downers and uppers and downers, and actors and singers that here in the United States and around the world that you all know about died because they mixed too many drugs together too long in their bodies, and it killed them. Whitney Houston, for instance, many other people that I could probably sit here and rattle off for all day. Now, it wasn't because they were taking psychedelic drugs, but that was part of it, right? I'm sure they were also doing that, everything done in moderation. They realized, Leary realized, but he was working for the CIA when he did it. A lot of people don't know that. They were experimenting on the population to see what these different drugs, LSD being one that they introduced, to the population. Cocaine, crank, if you know what that is. Those were all introduced by the pharmaceutical companies who were manufacturing these things and giving them, weaponizing things to give to the governments to see if they could control the population. The problem was that they didn't realize that it was also going to enlighten people in a way when they got a hold of things. Marijuana, the different cannabises, peyote, LSD, that sort of, ayahuasca, DMT, all of that. They were trying to figure out if they could use it to control people. A lot of the stuff was they were using sodium pentothal and things like that in interrogations and then trying to see if they could make the super soldier. They were a continuation of the Nazi scientists who were hired by the American government to do so. The Russians and the English also had some of those scientists, and they were all working to do that, still are. You hear people talking about that with being taken by the government. If you watch Above Majestic, there's a couple of people there, Laura Eisenhower being one, and another woman, I don't remember her name. She was wearing a hat, and she talked about them giving her shots and how it was like she thought she was going to turn to goo or foam, and they kind of show you that, like in X-Men, where they do that, and they give a shot to one of the guys, and he literally turns to water, falls apart, and turns to water. That's based on people's rendering and information that this is what it felt like was going to happen to me. And it is possible, I don't know for sure, how much of that did in fact happen, because most of that stuff, if somebody died from it, the story would never get out, right? It's not. That's why I laughed when, in Pirates of the Caribbean, when they're like, yeah, it's the Black Pearl. They're raiding up and down the Spanish Main, and they kill everyone and leave no survivors. And Captain Jack, who's sitting in the cell next to him, says, well, I wonder where all the stories come from then. Somebody has to survive to tell the stories, right? Is his point. So if nobody's alive to tell the stories, you don't get to know what's going on and how many people died from these different things. So the Nazis were controlling Adolf Hitler and giving him a cocktail of all kinds of shit to keep him going. And that's why he was so skirked out of his mind on LSD, PCP, cocaine, and crank at the time when he was speaking most of the time. So that drove him a little more crazy than normal and got him a little more hostile than normal. So as he got a little bit older, he was losing his mind, but it wasn't because he was evil to begin with. He was twisted, and he was, very egoic and willing to do whatever he needed to do, including when he got into power, murdering everybody who was his opposing ideologies or opposing in the parties. So he was evil, but he wasn't as evil as everyone thinks he was. The point of all that is, on the other side of that, if you look at the movement, the drug movement all over the world, especially in the United States in the 60s, moving into the 80s, I was born in the 60s. Luckily for me, my parents didn't do drugs, so I didn't have any issues that way of being born with problems. However, what they were doing, look at the band The Doors. They called themselves that because they were unlocking the doors of the spiritual mind using drugs. Because the population in the 1960s of the planet was mostly not awake enough or at a high enough resonance to be able to achieve those things without medication, without drugs. As we have evolved in the next generation, my generation, the one after that, after me, and now the one that's coming after that, is able to do that now without. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have to or that we don't, because that does help, right? I mean, I literally take certain mushrooms now every day. I don't eat them like a raw mushroom, but I could if I could get them. I would. It does the same thing. So, and including the meditative things that I've showed you guys that are in the class in the class chat, and returning to the old ways in the videos that I've shown you about the Christos, the Christ within, and the DMT that's released in your brain once a month. So the problem that we have with taking these outside drugs is that they're short lasting. Like an ayahuasca or DMT trip, when you take it, is super intense for 10 minutes and then that's it, it's over. So literally you would be able to, if you were lower vibration and you were trying to channel like raw, to take that, or LSD, just like in this case with Carla, the last session prior to this one, which is what he was referring to, and that they had to abruptly end, not because Carla was not capable of doing it on her own, but because Rick, I just started. I've only been on since 3 p.m. my time, bro. So 15 minutes. You're not that late. And I've only played like 2 questions or 1 question from Rob. We're just talking about, because it's Carla in the session prior to had taken LSD. And when the LSD wore off, her energy was a lot lower and Raw had to end the session. And he's explaining that the LSD assists, but it's short-lived. And so if she doesn't take it at the right time and doesn't have her own energy capabilities working really well, that the LSD will make the experience or the communication really acute, but then end quickly. And I'm explaining how DMT, ayahuasca, and the like when you do LSD, that lasts a little bit longer than the other ones. It's not 10-minute short-lived. It lasts longer, but you have to time it. And that's what she learned to do, was either do all the meditation and eat properly and sleep properly and exercise to make sure that she was able to do it on her own, or she was then taking the LSD. Because if you take anything else, because LSD is a synthesized DMT ayahuasca. Ayahuasca comes from the blue lotus, or the purple lotus, to be more specific. And the DMT comes from other sources. And we actually make DMT in our own brain all the time, especially at that time of the month where the moon is in your sun sign for you individually. And that you actually get a burst of that milk, the land of milk and honey, the enlightenment from the natural DMT. So if you add on top of that those chemicals that do the same thing, smoking marijuana, peyote, all of that, there's a reason that we say that you're high when you do that, because the truth is you are of a higher vibration. It does enhance your vibration and raise you to a place it pulls you away from your ego and your thinking mind, unless you get paranoid on the trip and have what they call a bad trip, and you start listening to the mind or the ego or both, and then you just start freaking out because the ego's like, oh no, because the ego doesn't know what's going on either, and neither does the mind. So both of them get scared. The ego gets scared, and then the mind just tells you what the ego says, and that scares you because you think that you're the mind or the ego. And the ego goes, oh, man, I don't know what's going on, man. My heart's beating fast, man. There's cops everywhere. They're in the bushes outside, man. Holy crap. And that's your ego freaking out because it wants your attention, and it wants you to fix it. It doesn't realize, because it knows it's not like a separate thing from you, but it senses. So it's not alive in a separate entity, but it senses that you are no longer needing it. The same thing happens when you're meditating. The difference is when you learn to meditate and move out of that place, you do it so naturally that you don't freak out when you get there. When you're on drugs of some kind and you have that trip, you're expecting to have a trip. And most of the time when people are taking it's recreational and they want to see weird shit, or they're trying to escape from this reality, even if they aren't aware of it. So those people who are aware of all of that prepare themselves and know that this is what's going to happen. And that's why they eat the mushrooms. That's why they do the LSD. That's why they do the ayahuasca or the DMT, or they do the, smoke, marijuana. When I smoke pot, I can't stand, I did this with crank as well. I didn't do cocaine. I smoked it, right? Mixed with marijuana, LSD, PCP, cocaine at one time. And at first I didn't realize that was what was happening. And I was having a really bad trip because I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then I called my buddy and was like, dude, what did you give me? And he's like, I gave you a joint that was laced with PCP, LSD, and cocaine. And I was like, all right, now that I know what's going on, I can relax. I'm not going to fucking die. My heart's racing because I got cocaine in my system, and I'm seeing weird shit because I got PCP and LSD in my system. And on top of that, I got, THC. So then I relaxed and I just like sat there and let it go. See, so it's the mindset when you're taking the stuff that will determine, and if people around you, they're trying to fuck with you, pardon my American, but people do that. They go, here, give them this drug and then screw with them the entire time and fuck them up. Those people are nefarious, and it's not going to do you any good. And they're trying to make you have a bad trip because they want to laugh at you while you're crying or peeing yourself or doing something stupid. So that's why when you do this stuff, I'm telling everyone in the world this, if you are going to do any of these drugs that do uplift your vibration to a higher level, you need to make sure that you're doing it with people that are not nefarious, who realize why you're doing it and will assist you. Because like if you take ayahuasca or DMT, you actually are literally like as if you took a shot of heroin. You're gone. You are laid out, and and so your body's just laying there. Okay, so you need to be with people that are not going to just have, you can't be run over by a car. You can't be doing it by yourself, because sometimes it freaks people out, and you don't want to come back. And so when it wears off and you come back, sometimes you get violent. Sometimes you're afraid. You need people there to console you, because when you go out there, you're going to be consoled by the people that are there. And that's what kind of freaks people out, because you get out there and somebody's like, it's okay, you're going to be fine, because they know if you've done this for the first time, or you're going to get there and go, what the fuck is going on, man? Right? So then when you come back, you're going to realize that this is the dream, and then you freak out because you don't want to be here anymore, because you realize this is the dream. For the first time of your life, you actually go, this is actually the fucking dream. And then everybody around you goes, dude, you're just tripping, man. Unless they've done it and they're spiritually aware of what's going on. So if you're around somebody, that's why the Native Americans will take you into the kiva, the sweat lodge, and they'll have you be there with the elders or people who assist you, because they know what you're going to see and do. And this is why Joe Rogan has dedicated countless hours. You can look up Joe Rogan's podcast, countless hours talking about with other people who have had the same, have done DMT or ayahuasca and talked about it. So when I smoke marijuana, it drives me crazy if it's low THC level, because some people, they don't, literally when they legalized it, you had people wanting to make money off of everyone. So what they did was, because when I was a kid, the scientists, all of us nerdy scientists, because I could do the same thing now, but I don't. But at the time they were blending marijuana to get a higher THC value. So literally, I'll smoke the other stuff, but I try to get 100 milligrams or parts per million into my system minimum. And if I don't have that much, most of the stuff you get is 25 to 50 in the stores. Then I have to smoke more, because that to me is kind of, it's like crack. You smoke it, it's really cool for a second, it goes away real fast. So when I smoke pot, I'm smoking it to get high, really high. I don't want to fucking smoke it and almost get high. Oh, okay. Now I'm kind of high. But for people that are just learning, that lower strength is good, because they're only using it until, right? See, 80 to 90% in the vape. See, Celeste is just like me. It's got to be higher, or she doesn't even want to mess with it. But then what they did was they like they did with gasoline here in the United States. If it's a lower level, they gave you the cost of what it was before for anything. And then they raised the price for the higher shit. That's what they do to make more money off of you. Okay. But I agree, Celeste. I would do 80 or 90, guaranteed, because you can't get it at 100 or above. Actually, no, you can now, because my sister just said she's got an oil that she smokes in her hookah. And she asked me if I wanted to do it one day, and I said, okay. And she goes, well, wait, just so you know, this is over 100 parts per million. And I was like, really? And I think she said it was like 120. And I'm like, you smoke that normally? And she's like, yeah, I've gone back to the way we were it was kids, because I don't want to smoke that shit and be kind of almost high. She says the whole purpose of this is to be high. So she takes that and hits that. And, and she's like doing that spiritually. She's growing really fast because she's using it for that purpose, not just because I'm trying to get away from the world. She's actually smoking it to then study spiritually and using that to raise her vibration to help her. And she's doing that on purpose. I do the same thing. I don't smoke it recreationally. I used to. Don't get me wrong. I did when I was drinking a year ago. For that whole year prior to that, I was drinking alcohol and smoking pot every night and getting super high. But I was also doing that to sit up and actually do the same reason. I was actually learning and studying and raising my vibration. So it wasn't really recreational. It wasn't like I did it all day long. I only did it when I was going to sit down and read the different scrolls or watch videos and listen to them and that kind of thing. So when you use the stuff in the proper manner and the proper way, right? Rick said same, Penny said same, right? Yeah. So that's good though. So yeah, it doesn't get me high either. Celeste says it doesn't get me high. I just keep getting anxiety. So yeah, that's what happens. So then you got to hit more so that you can, or you have to take time off. Cause when you have to change the plant, Celeste. I found that certain plants make individuals, and it's individual to each of us, make you paranoid. So when you find that you're hitting that one that's paranoid, buy a different blend, because they have all the different names now, right? Of different growers that are growing certain chemistries and tastes. Try a different one and see if it's the level of the THC or if it's the actual weed that you're smoking right then. Because I found that certain ones make me paranoid and other ones don't bother me at all. And some don't make me paranoid unless I get 130 parts per million in my system. And then I go, oh, fuck, I'm so high I can't do anything. You know what I mean? Because that's like indica then, it's in the couch, right? But what they consider indica in the couch is for the rest of us who grew up that way. And Celeste, you're almost old enough. I know you're not that much younger than me. I know you're probably 15 years or so younger than me, but you know what I'm talking about because you grew up in that same atmosphere before they really started separating. And I don't know everyone else's age. It's the only reason I say that. Penny knows. She's the same age as me. I think we're almost identical in age. So I know Penny knows too. Right. And that means Denise probably knows if she smoked pot because she's about that same age. And I know Cassie knows because she currently does it as well. That literally, there's certain types that'll make you paranoid and certain types that get you high, creeper bud, we used to call it. You smoke it. I don't feel anything. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I'm fucking high. So you have to learn all of that stuff, just like an alcoholic has to learn what their limitations are when you're smoking that stuff, right? Yeah. See, Penny says all I smoke is indica. Agreed. That's what anybody in our age group, and Celeste, she was just talking about that. It's got to be 80% or higher. Because look at what Rick is saying. Medical is only 18 to 26%, right? That's way too low, right? I mean, for me, it is. It's good for medical reasons, but if I'm trying to get high to do work, I'm going to have to hit that damn thing 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times to get that THC level built up in my system. And then the problem with that is that if it is, in fact, 18 to 26%, but it's a creeper bud and they didn't tell you that means that it's going to top out in a few minutes. Well, I'm that person that I'll take a hit and go, okay, that didn't hit me instantly. It didn't go to my head. That's what we used to call it back in the day. That didn't go to my head. I need to take another hit, right? And then I'll go, okay, that didn't go to my head. I'm going to take another hit. But I had to learn with a lot of this lower level stuff that it actually is a slow burn. It's creeper. So I would take a hit and then go, okay, that's pretty low. I'll take a second hit and I'll wait now about 5 or 10 minutes. And if it doesn't improve, I'll come back and take another hit. Right. I had to learn about that with some of the stuff because I would get what my niece would call a cocktail. I would say, I need some weed. And she'd go, what kind do you want? And I'm like, I want everything from low level to high level. I want everything from skunk weed to really good tasting. And she's like, why? I said, because I blend my own depending on what I'm doing. I will take what, because I pick up, I'm such a connoisseur. This is why I should grow the stuff. I was going to do that and start growing it here in my house. I still might, but you have to plant it in May. It goes May to October. You plant in May and you pick in October. So I can't do it this year because May's already passed. We're into June. So it's too late. You either started growing a month ago or you're not going to do it now until next year. Right, Cassie? So that's why I only smoke indica at night, right? Because you want to be that high. You want to have that effect. You don't want to be functional at that point. I'm going to be doing things and I want to go to sleep later. So I want to get really high so I can spiritually work and be in a high place, right? So people that my point is that the 60s and the 70s and the 80s taught our generations, me born in the 60s and seeing all that, growing up with it. And then I know Rick is like, oh my God, I just woke up 5 minutes ago. For me, it's 3:30 p.m., bro, on Friday. And for you, it's what is that? It's 8:30 in the morning or something like that. I didn't do the count. I was trying to do the math quickly. I know you're like 15, 16 hours ahead of me, so it's morning for you there in Australia. So literally, we watched them go through that, and we became more spiritual over time. So we're able to achieve now a higher level without any kind of drugs than they could in the 60s and the 80s. Yet we're still now using those same drugs they were using to actually have a higher experience and more so, because no one in the United States knew about ayahuasca. They knew about ayahuasca, but you couldn't get it, or DMT in the United States in the 60s and 70s and 80s. That wasn't available in the United States truly until about 2000. You could get it overseas easily anywhere, but it was really hard to find in the United States. Now it's everywhere and you can find it whenever you want, which is good because it needs to be. I'll be honest with you. Everyone's like, people shouldn't be doing drugs because that's just bad for you. No, that's a lie. That's the part where they're telling you that they don't want you to use it because they want you to think that it's a gateway to other things. It's going to ruin your brain, killing your brain cells, killing you. But they'll be okay with you drinking alcohol, which is a poison, which the high you get from alcohol is literally brain cells dying from the poison that is alcohol. Okay, that's the truth of it. So they'll tell you that this drugs that don't kill your brain cells in any way is bad for you, but to do all the drugs the pharmaceutical company gives you, which kills your organs and your brain cells, and to drink alcohol is completely normal, and you should do that instead. And that stuff kills you by doing it. But the stuff that it actually helps and assists you in a spiritual way, they tell you is bad for you, and you have to have their permission to do it. Okay, up is down, down is up, right is wrong, wrong is right. Wasn't there a song that had that? I don't remember who it was, but I know that now. As I was saying it, I was like, wait, that's a song. Somebody has sang that. Was that Taylor Swift or somebody that sang that? Or it was saying it's a song. And if it's not, it's in my head. So I know that somebody has made that song. I think it might have been Katy Perry, right? I think it was Katy Perry. She had a song that had that in it. So maybe not all of those, but part of those about right is wrong and wrong is right. So other people have said that, right? So, right, ayahuasca I have never done, but I haven't done a trip on DMT or ayahuasca where I've taken them or drank them or ate them, and I haven't ate mushrooms raw that you get when you buy them and they're dehydrated in a bag. But I've smoked mushrooms. I take mushrooms every day in the morning, every single day. When I take pills, I take mushrooms. But it's manufactured, but it still is the same ones that people eat to then expand their consciousness. I just do it in a way that is not a super high trip with a short-lived amount. So that's why I do it that way. Same thing. If you talk to Omar, he'll tell you a story about him going camping with his wife, Amy, and they took a bag of mushrooms. She took a picture of it and showed it to me when they were there. I was laughing about it. I was like, way to go, bro. Just be careful. Well, his wife was eating the mushrooms and she said, nothing happened. No, I don't, nothing's happened. So she kept eating some more. He was like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? Slow down. Right. And she was like, what? Nothing's happening. These things aren't that strong. And he's like, Amy, you have your body has to digest them. So he said, okay, if you're going to be fucked up and tripping, I'm going to do as well. And so he called me. He was like, dude, I'm going to be so fucked up. And I was like, what's going on? He told me. I was like, oh my God, how much did she eat? And he goes, I don't know, but I found her just sitting there gnawing on it like it was candy. And so he started eating it as well. He says, I'll see you on the other side, brother. And I laughed. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. And then he took pictures and was talking about it afterwards because they were fucked up for the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because of what she ate, and he just stayed with her the whole time, doing the same thing. So, you have to realize that when you first ingest something, give it a moment. If you eat it, it takes sometimes your body has to digest it, which means that it's going to take 45 minutes to actually really get into your body. So it's literally because that's going to be the whole amount is going to take about 45 minutes for your body to ingest. At first, you're going to start feeling it, but it's going to ramp up. It's not like shooting it into your veins. You shoot it in your veins, it goes right to your head. You smoke it in your lungs, and it goes right to your heart, to your head and your heart, and it pumps right to your lungs. When you ingest things, it takes a while for it to, and it builds up. Okay, so you have to be careful if you're eating something, even the mushrooms that'll get you really high really quickly. That's why the same thing with peyote, ayahuasca, DMT. That stuff reacts really quickly, but it's short-lived, even though you're ingesting it. But like a peyote takes a while. So when you go to a kiva and you drink that, you'll sit there and go, nothing's really going on right now. And then all of a sudden you're fucking in the other world, literally, right? You're in the spirit world. I mean, did you guys ever watch what was that movie where they did that? And they're like, we're in the spirit world. Well, yeah, you were, but everybody else could see you still. They didn't know that, which was funny. Hey, you guys, just see the size of that chicken. Remember the cowboy movie? Anyway, which is a true story, by the way. So my point is, and this is that Carl is using LSD to assist with channeling, talking to Ra. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's my point. You just have to make sure that you know what you're doing. And she, at this point, back in the 80s, in 1981, she took some LSD the day before. And because of it, she has a lot better connection with Ra, but it ended abruptly. So it only lasted 30 minutes or so, I think he said. And then she slammed down from that, coming down off of it. And so the signal diminished a great deal. And because she wasn't doing other things to keep her own energy up without the drug, they had to end the session. So Carla learned to, and they talk about this as we go, you'll see that more, where they're talking about exercise and ascension food. That's why I bring this up right now, and spent almost 40 minutes talking about it. Because I'm not going to just tell you should be doing drugs, because then somebody's going to do that and someone's going to die, and they're going to say that I said that on my podcast, and someone's going to try and sue me because their kid took drugs and died because I was talking about it. This is why people don't talk about this stuff openly, and it's because they're worried about that. So if you guys out there on the planet think that you can just take any amount of drugs without knowing what your own tolerance is, you do so at your own risk. I am not in any way a doctor, and I don't know your physiology, so I am not your role model, and I am not telling you that you should be doing drugs. Okay. You need to learn your own limits before you do anything. And then you need to make sure you're with the right people in the right situation, so you don't overdose and you don't die if you do overdose. Okay. And any drug that you might think you might overdose and die from, you shouldn't be fucking doing anyways. Okay. So there's my disclaimer, so that if anybody out there only listens to the first part of this, that's not my fault. I put it all out there. They'll try to sue me. Anybody tries to sue me because I talked about this, I can say, listen to the podcast. While I was discussing all of that, I didn't give you the disclaimer in the beginning, but anybody who listened to it, there's a disclaimer there, and technically I won't be held responsible for it. Okay. So let's continue. I just wanted to state that because of the way people are these days. Somebody will go, I listened to his podcast and he said do drugs. And so I never once said you should be doing anything. What I said was, if you choose to, your choice, free will, you need to make sure that you have people around you that can help you or resuscitate you, and that are not going to try and make you have a bad trip, so that you can use it, if you do, to accentuate your spiritual growth. However, it is not necessary at all for you to have to do that if you're fixing yourself properly. That's my point. I'm not saying that I don't, because I do. Okay. But I've never done DMT or ayahuasca outright, only because they're short-lived. I've always gone, I think that would be great to do, but I'm going to have a 10-minute experience and then it's going to be over. And that's it, right? If I want to live in it a little bit longer. I know the 10 minutes when you're on ayahuasca or DMT is a long time, and a lot of shit happens there. I get that, because everything's now. So it's like having a dream. And that's kind of going, that's actually going in my book, because I'm talking about that, how the perception of spirituality is being told to you that it's all bad and in your own mind. And from their perspective of being in service to self, or not being in service to self, but not actually being on the right path of ascension, from that egoic perspective that they have, they're correct, because they can't see what you're seeing. It is not something that, it's one of those things where literally they just can't, because of where they are. So they can't even fathom the idea of what you're saying is a reality, because for them it is not possible to achieve. And anyone who is in that state as a researcher of, I must prove everything in the 3D, there is nothing else, and all of that is just in your head, for them that is actually true, because they cannot achieve what you can. And that is the free will of this place. For those people, it will never, unless they choose a spiritual path, they will never know enlightenment, ever. They'll go through however many lifetimes until they learn that. And that's the truth. And that's what I'm writing about in my book. I'm literally donating an entire chapter to the true enlightenment, or true spirituality. Showing how all of the other, because literally right now I was writing, is another reason why I'm talking about this, which is what we're going to talk about going forward. Literally, not my book, but this is what I was writing about. I was literally writing the chapter on theology and explaining how most 90% of all theologians investigate and act and think about all of the religions, tomes, texts, scrolls around the world, and how they're actually, because of everyone is so focused on each individual thing, that they're not getting the big picture at all. And then that's the problem. Everybody's looking at astrology as the way, then they're looking at physics as the way. You got individuals, and even in the physics area, you have individuals that are looking at everything. Only people that look at only gases, people only looking at electricity, people only looking at water, people only looking at, and that's the problem, is that everybody is focused on even astrology, and then they have astronomy. So now you have an astronomer who that's all he does, and you have or she, then you have an astrologist, and that's all they do. That's literally like as if the ideology of psychiatry and psychology were to break down everything and say, well, I'm a psychologist, but I work only on past lives. I'm a psychologist and work only on when they were between the age of 0 and 10. I'm a psychologist and I only work on people between the age of 10 and 20. And you break it down and separate them all into completely different doctrines that you have to have a doctorate degree in. That's what they're doing with theology and religion and spirituality. They split everything up, and they only call things that are like the big, most popular religions, and everything else is a cult. And fabled in a supposed way of spirituality from the past. And then you have other people that look at the scrolls and go, whatever the oldest one is has to be the way, and everyone else borrowed from them. And they're missing the entire big picture of all of that. And that's what I'm writing about partially in my book. All right, let's continue. Because if I talk too much about it, I won't have to write about it, because everybody will hear about it, right? Not saying that I'm keeping back information, because I'm not, or I wouldn't have said this at all and never brought it up. If I was trying to hide all the information just because I wanted to get rich on it. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to give all of this information out to people. But in the book, I'm organizing it so I stay on topic, one topic at a time per chapter. So it's easier for you guys to follow than me, the way I do it here, which flows very quickly. And I move from place to place, leading you with all of these parables. That's a different kind of teaching here than the linear style that you have to use for a book. So my book's going to be very linear, and then when I talk about it, it's going to be like this. You're going to hear this. Okay? All right, let's continue.
This particular chemical substance is both helpful and unhelpful in these contacts for the causes given. 18.4 Questioner: are there any foods that are helpful or harmful that the instrument might eat? Raw. I am raw.
Okay, hold on. I didn't realize that until Cassie. Thank you. Pamela Johnston. It's her birthday today. She's 29. I don't know how old she is, but whatever it is, you never find out. Well, you never ask a woman what her age is. Just assume that she's 29 after she is 29. And if she's below 29, you assume that she's 21. always until that doesn't cut it. Then you just say 29 and then you keep it there. Right. So I don't know how old you are, but happy birthday, Pamela. I'll move on from there, but I wanted to acknowledge that and say happy birthday. So for everybody around the world that are listening to this, think that, right? Yes, she said you're correct, absolutely correct, 29. And then she said LMAFO. Actually, she didn't put the F in there, I did, but that's still funny, right? Okay, so let's continue. Happy birthday, love. Let's continue.
This instrument has body complex distortion towards ill health in the distortion direction corrected best by ingestion of the foodstuffs of your grains and your vegetables, as you call them. However, this is extremely
and thank you, Cassie, and thank you, Denise. Cassie said it was Denise who remembered to remind us. Thank you, Denise, for bringing that up and reminding us, because I would have forgotten about it. I'm too busy talking about drugs. Let's continue. It's a good thing I'm not on any right now, but I mean the mushrooms, you could say that. But other than that, I'm not on any THC or DMT. Well, DMT's in the mushrooms, and ayahuasca anyway. But actually, the ayahuasca is DMT too. So technically, let's continue.
Important when regarded as an aid with equality to other aids such as attitude, which this instrument has in abundance. It, however, aids the vital energies of this instrument, with less distortion towards ill health, to ingest foodstuffs in the above manner with occasional ingestion of what you call your meats, due to the instrument's need to lessen the distortion towards low vital energy. 18.5 Questioner, thank you. I have a question here from Jim that I will read verbatim.
Okay, so before we get into that, I want to talk about that. So we talked about this before, and I want to talk about it again. On last week on Saturday, Jacqueline and I touched on this. Ascension Foods. You have to learn this stuff, right? Who was that? Was that Kari that was talking about her mother just the other day, yesterday, or the day, whenever day that was? I get confused on time sometimes because of the way things flow for me. I'm like, was that yesterday or is that tomorrow? Either way, it was. I think it was Kari, and then she was talking about her mother having problems with being probably insulin resistant or type 2 diabetic. I didn't ask which, but she was having a problem with her blood sugar, and we were working with her. A bunch of us in this audience here were working with her and talking about food stuffs and how and what to do to lower your glycemic index. And that's part of it. You have to learn Ascension Foods. And if you're in the West, and I say that because it's not just the United States, it's everywhere the cabal controls, every place where white people are in charge. I say that because that's really the only places that all the money is and all the corruption. It's corrupting around the whole world, but the food for poor people is all natural. My buddy who lives in the Philippines, even though that government is corrupt, they don't have total control of pharmaceutical companies growing food like we do over here. And literally, being fed that food. So literally, he said everybody over here is healthy because they're too poor to have all the chemically screwed up food that we have in the United States, because he used to live here and he moved to the Philippines. And he said, so everybody over here is thin and healthy because they eat organic and they have to consume the food because it doesn't have so much steroids in it that stays alive for 4 or 5 or 10 or 12 days in your house. So everybody goes to the store every couple of days and buys little amounts of food that is organic, except for, pastas and rices. And that's not weaponized either. And so because of that, they're more healthy. So the places where the rich people live, they're feeding us all this food that is contaminated. It's crap. It's designed to make us ill and sick. So literally you have to not only take care of yourself if you're going to use drugs, not medication from pharmaceutical companies, but DMT, ayahuasca, THC, any of those, LSD, any of those in your spiritual growth. Be careful with that and learn what you can and can't do. But you also will have an easier time by fixing the foods you eat and getting all of that crap that they're keeping you low vibrational food out of your system. And you'll learn that quickly. If you go to like a fast food restaurant and buy that food and eat it, that food has the vibration of that food is substandard. I mean, it's the lowest vibrational food you can get, except for frozen processed food from a factory that's been run off by assembly line by machines with no humans involved. So that's the only thing that's even more lower vibration than fast food. And that stuff is all created by machines and then shipped. But at least you have someone still to this day for a minute that has to cook the stuff in the stores. They're trying to automate everything. And by doing that, it's going to lower the vibration always. Even though the machine was created by somebody, the intent of the machine is to make something that can quickly manufacture this shit as fast as possible and remove the human from the equation. In doing so, you remove the intention, and that intention lowers the vibration of the food that you eat. So you need to look at all foods that you eat and then find out where it was made and how. If it's made by hand, you're going to get a better quality of vibration in anything. And you instantly know this. You have this ability naturally. When you pick something up, you look at it and your body feels the vibration and you're unaware of it. And you go, wow, yeah, raw, thank you, Celeste, raw whole foods are the healthiest. Agreed. You can get even sugar. If you like cane sugar, you can get raw cane sugar that is that khaki color and bigger granules. Even though sugar is not really good for you in and of itself, but it's still a better alternative than just eating regular cane sugar or beet sugar or corn syrup. But there's other things that you can get that are better for you, like monk fruit and things like that, which is the natural sugars that actually taste better and are sweeter. But you have to look for it because they're trying to give you the shittiest, most inexpensive manufactured everything, cars, everything you can imagine, including food, because they're trying to make the highest profit they can make. So they want the food to be addictive, and they want you to think it tastes good. They don't care about nutrition. Honestly, they don't. You have to be aware of that. They don't care about your safety or your longevity in the car you buy, the house you live in, nothing. The foods that you buy, they don't care about an individual person. They care about an equation. That's what they were showing you in Fight Club. They care about an equation of cost to them. If there is a problem that the lawsuit is going to cost them more than a recall, they will do the recall. If not, they will allow it to continue until someone sues them and it starts hitting their pocketbook, and then they'll recall everything to save the money from a class action lawsuit. That is an actual fact and actual truth. So when you watch, if you guys have ever watched Fight Club and you hear him rattle off those, I work for a large auto company that I will not disclose who, and this is what I do. I go and assess accidents and calculate this risk. That is actually true. 100% with everything. Food companies, manufacturing of any kind of thing you consume, alcohol, water, sodas, everything you consume or use on this earth, most of them, if they are not high quality whole foods like Celeste mentioned, and even them, and if you go to whole food places, read the freaking ingredients. In the United States, they have to tell you what's in it. I don't know what it is in your country, in your countries around the world. I know they don't have laws to where they have to tell you everything. Just like on television, when people come here from out of the country and they start watching American television, the commercials here will tell you the side effects of all the medication they give you. It is a law. They have to tell you that here in this country. People come from a foreign country and they go, holy crap, are you serious? Why do people even take medication here? Well, you take the same medications. You just don't know about the problems that it can pose you. They maybe give you a piece of paper, but like signing an agreement with an app, most people just go, whatever, and throw it away. With an app, they go, you have to sign, you have to say, yes, you agree to our terms of service. You don't know what they're saying in there. You have no idea because you don't read that stuff. You just go, yes, whatever, I just want to use the app. Okay. That's why I'm no longer on TikTok. I was on TikTok before. You can go there. My account's still there because I haven't deleted it, but I deleted it off of my smartphone and I don't go and post there anymore. Why is that? Because to post there, I have to agree to their terms of agreement, and their new terms of agreement as of May 8th that you had to sign or you couldn't do it anymore said that you will not in any way join a class action lawsuit against TikTok. You will not and cannot hire a lawyer to arbitrate for you or to be your agent in a lawsuit. You will not ever file a lawsuit against TikTok for any reason or allow anyone other human to file a lawsuit for you that if there is a problem of arbitration with you and TikTok, it is with you personally and a representative of TikTok to figure it out. And TikTok has the final say, period. That is what you have to agree with. And that's just where I stopped reading. They could literally be telling me that you give up. You could be saying, yes, I give up my citizenship to you as the owner of TikTok that you now own me as a slave and you wouldn't know about it because you didn't read it to find out. Think about that. Okay. They haven't started doing that yet, but it's coming if they haven't already been thinking about it, because they know that people like me are stupid enough to read the whole thing and then we'll tell the world, and they don't want to get caught doing that. But soon, when people aren't paying attention, that's going to be a thing. I'm telling you right now, because, and I'm not saying that because I'm trying to manifest it. I know, I see what they're doing and what road they're going down with AI. You're going to sell your soul to the devil by proxy. That is the modus operandi, according to Raw and many other sources in the spiritual realm of the nefariousness of people in service to self. The modus operandi is to usurp your knowledge of free will. But yeah, I didn't like TikTok to begin with. Celeste said, I really hate TikTok. I didn't like it to begin with, but I was pushed to go on TikTok because all the kids between, like whatever, 1 and 21 are mostly on TikTok. So trying to get message out to the younger generation, that's one of the biggest places where they are. Welcome, Bo. I was just talking about you. We were talking about you. We were having a meeting of the minds, and Ray asked if I still talk to you. And I said, yeah, I've been talking to Bo the whole time. I think we lost contact for a short minute, but Peter and myself have been talking to Bo for years now. And she was like, good, I don't know where he was, and I was hoping he was okay. I said, Bo's doing just fine. He's doing good. Don't you worry about Bo. He's doing just fine. So welcome, brother. I'm glad that you're here. So it's funny. Yours must have been ringing. Literally, I guess it was what now, Cassie, 3-4 days ago now, if that. We were talking about that, and Ray asked me how you were and if we are still talking to you. And Peter and I were like, we talk to him all the time. He's good. So welcome, brother. Okay, so know that they have usurped your free will choice by not allowing you to know that you have one. Okay. And sneaking this stuff that they're doing with the apps, every company is doing that. You have to agree to the terms of service. And if you don't read that terms of service, you don't know what you're giving up. And if they get you used to doing that, when do you think your government is going to have you sign something like that when you're doing your taxes or something? A terms of agreement with the government. If you're so used to doing that and they're programming you that at every app you're at every month, they say, I have to agree to the damn terms of service. I know that. Okay. You get so used to doing it that it is natural that you don't even pay attention and you click yes and just to keep going what you're doing. Soon, you're going to find out that you gave up the right to be a human being and that you assigned yourself to a country or an app or something as a slave, and that you are legally bound by that because they're going to pass a law which nobody's going to be paying attention to. And they're already doing it to the government. When Barack Obama was the president and he was trying to pass his new medical for everybody, it was 70,000 pages long. And they were putting it into the House of Representatives to be signed. And the supermajority was going to the Democrats. So at the time, Nancy Pelosi, who was the Speaker of the House, you can look this up. And if you were alive in America at the time, you probably remember this. She got up in front of everybody in Congress and said, don't bother reading it, just sign it. I said to the television, what if Barack Obama has literally put in there, I am now the king and dictator for life of the United States of America. And by signing this, Congress is signing this into law, stating that I am now sole controller king of the United States of America. And they all signed it. And I said, after they found out that's not what he said in there, I said, I'll bet you that he's sitting back going, why the fuck didn't I do that? I could have made myself king for life right now and took over the United States of America and gave it to my children alone. And they would have all signed it. And that's what they did. And they all just signed it without reading it, not knowing about it. And then everybody read it afterwards to find out what the hell he said. It was the same thing in the election. Joe Biden said, when people said, what are all of your policies, Joe? He said, elect me and then I'll tell you. Think about that. Elect me and then I'll tell you. And everyone elected him because they had used propaganda to get everybody to hate Donald Trump so much that they all voted. Everyone voted for Joe Biden. And now everybody's going, they're telling our kids all this crazy shit. There's crime in the streets and businesses are closing and leaving. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem, guys. Those of you who voted for Joe Biden voted for him to change the laws. He signed over 100 presidential enactments to change the laws in this country to enact all of the things that you are having problems with now. You need to look at that and see that. And if you don't, and you think I'm your enemy right now, trust me, I am not your enemy, because I am not a shtick for Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump is also a fucking madman, and he shouldn't be the president of the United States. But the alternative is what we have now. And we know that under that other crazy guy who was orange, we at least were making money and had all these factories open and but that doesn't mean that that was what he was going to continue to do. Don't get me wrong. He's the other side of the coin, so that we go one or the other. What we need in this country and around the world is for people that are going to stand up, that are standing up to those people on the far right and the far left, whatever you call that, parties in your countries, and that they are in fact down the center, where they're centrists, and it doesn't matter what they call themselves as a party, but they are literally down the center with their ideology, because that's going to be where the people are, because 90% of the population of the earth is a centrist. They don't want to be an extreme one side or the other. What you have right now is that you have all parties running to either side and keeping you guys fighting over which side you're on. Why? Because that's keeping them in control always. Do you understand that? I don't normally like to talk about politics, but I keep trying to tell you people on the planet that that is the religion of evil. That is the religion, the entire caste system, control, monetary system, war, governments, and they have that set up in your school set up the same way, your church is set up the same way, your job is set up the same way. Everything in your life is set up with a monarchy in control. And they change the name of the monarchy and pretend it's not one guy, because that's the guy behind the scenes that you don't know about, that is the money or the family that's behind the scenes, or the conglomeration of families. We call those mafias in this country and in Italy. We called them syndicates. And that's what's running the world right now, is a syndicate, a mafia of a conglomeration of families. And those people are keeping you all running to the edges, which is what they control. Staying away and trying to associate yourself with that religion, that I have some sort of ideology behind my name, like I have an R in this country as a Republican, or a D as a Democrat, and they don't care which one you pick. They want you to pick one, because both of them are that. All of them are one, and they are united against you and separating all of you, all of us around the world, into one of those two ideologies, buying into their evil religion and choosing a side, thinking we're fighting the opposing side. And the entire time, it's a fucking gaslight game that they're playing with you, me, and everybody else. And they're pretending that they're at odds with each other. They're pretending they're competing with each other. And the truth is, it's the devil fighting you for your soul. And you're losing because you don't see God. Why? Because religion recruits you and spirituality waits for you to find it. So God has already got his hand, whatever you call that Godhead, he or she, they already have their hand extended halfway down, waiting for you to reach up. And you have to choose to no longer follow the religion of evil and reach up to the sky, reach up to the spiritual enlightenment, by ignoring this reality, this illusion, and the religion of evil, which is this illusion. You have to ignore them and what they're doing. It takes their power away from them. I was like, what if we ignore them? They're just going to take over the world. No, what you're doing is you take their power from them by not giving it to them and playing their game. And then you tell them no, the same way you do children, because that's all they are. So you don't look at the kids and say to the kids, if I ignore them, they're going to lose their minds and they're out there running around doing it. You're right. If you ignore them and you allow them to do that, you're being complacent. But if you go out there and you take the ball away from the kids and you go, that's it, everybody get out of the pool. That's what the adult does. Everybody out of the goddamn pool. Nobody is going to do shit. You're all going to sit down and you're going to be quiet and you're going to take a rest until we tell you, the adults tell you can go back into the pool. And that's what we need to do with this planet. Do you understand that, guys? That's what we need to do here. You as individuals, we as individuals, we have the power as soon as we don't give it to them. As soon as we tell them no, Mahatma Gandhi proved that. An entire nation of India, without having an open fight against the British Empire, beat the British Empire without firing a single shot or beating anyone or burning anything down or rioting in the streets. They just said, no, we're not going to work for you. We're not going to do what you say. Then we're going to beat you. Okay, I'll take it. And they beat some people to death and others close to death. And guess what? People just went over and stopped them from beating people who got in the way and forced them to beat them now. And if you do that on camera, and yes, okay, is it a sacrifice? Yes. Can you might be getting killed over that? Yes. But if you don't and you survive that, when you don't and you survive that in this modern day, you're going to have 20 or 30 people filming the entire thing. And guess what's going to happen? Look what happened here in the United States with George Floyd. Look what just happened with that off-duty Marine who they're trying to say they were all scared for their lives as the guy is on the ground. And when the guy's trying to tap out with his arm, the other guy's grabbing his arm and holding it down until the guy died. I hope, it's unfortunate for that Marine, but that Marine went too far and he murdered somebody. You don't have to kill them to subdue them. At some point, you roll over and get on top of them when you subdue them, laying on your back and holding onto somebody's throat until they die. In your mind, I don't care who you are, that is not subduing somebody. He kept fighting. He kept fighting because you were fucking killing him, you dumbass. You were killing him. And he started fighting for his life when he realized it was slipping away from him. And you continued to do it until he died. And so unfortunately for that Marine, he went too far in doing what he did. I watched just part of the video and I can see you're holding the guy and you won't let him even surrender. And so now he thinks he's going to die. And so he's trying to fight for his life and you keep going until he dies. That was wrong. At some point when you subdue someone, you maneuver yourself. You got 4 or 5 people around you. You maneuver yourself on top of that person so you don't have to continue choking the life out of them to subdue them. You, dude, standing there doing nothing. Grab his fucking legs for me, please. Okay? That's what you do. That guy jumps on the ground and grabs his legs. Roll him over. So if you don't have the wherewithal, and he's a Marine, so he should have had the wherewithal. If you don't have the wherewithal to understand that you're trying to subdue them, and to do so, you have to get them on their stomach and hold them down, and you continue choking someone, you shouldn't fucking do it to begin with because you don't know what you're doing, and your dumbass is going to kill somebody because you're stupid. I'm just saying that out loud. Okay? I'm on that kind of mood right now today because, just because of watching that stuff. That guy, yes, was he a criminal? Yes. Did he get arrested like 100 times? Absolutely, he did. But that doesn't mean that you should justify murdering him just because you were afraid for your life. If you're afraid for your fucking life, get out of there then. I hate to say that because I sound like one of those people, that I always bitch about, like out in California where you can't defend your life. But you cross a line when you're holding somebody in a position to where they're dying and you don't stop. I'm afraid of this guy. I'm going to kill him because he's trying to kill me. Well, at some point you have to try to subdue him and not try to kill him. And that's the difference between going too far and not. Because that's no difference than that cop that I watched get on the throat of George Floyd. And when that happened, nobody stopped him. All the other cops were sitting there, standing there looking at him while he was doing it. And he had a grin on his face, but he put his hands in his pocket so he could say he never laid hands on him. Well, that guy's going to go to jail for it because he murdered him. You can see the look in his eye. That Marine wasn't, I don't believe he was intentionally trying to murder that guy, but he should go to jail for manslaughter because he went too far and he took it in a way that didn't give anyone any way of surrendering or ending the situation without death. And he should have known that because he was a trained military personnel. Okay? He should have known that. I know they just teach you to kill. I get that. But they also teach you hand-to-hand combat. He knew he was killing the guy. Okay. So I apologize for those of you who ran away because, there he goes. He's talking about politics. That is the religion of evil, and you need to know that and admit that to yourself. Okay? And know that by any kind of physical conflict is, in fact, what they want you to do. And then mental conflict in and of itself is what they want you to do. Okay? So well, no, I agree with that, Pamela, but she says, she says 100% she agrees with what I was saying, but they don't carry guns here. If everyone gives up their guns, like in England and Australia where nobody has guns, including the law enforcement and the fucking military, except for when military has to defend the nation itself or go to war, then I agree with not having weapons. But I cannot give up my guns in a place where I'm going to be guarded by guns. And I cannot abdicate that. Okay. That's why I like that over in England and I think in Australia. I know is in Australia, I'm always seeing pictures. They still have guns. But I know that in England, they don't. And in Ireland, because you're in Ireland, right, Pamela? So I don't think they do either. They're in the UK. So if you're in the UK, well, you're not part of the UK. You're in Ireland, unless you're in the north. It's a separate country. I don't want to in any way piss off the people I used to work for by associating the free and sovereign nation of Ireland with the UK. And Peter gets really upset when that happens, even by accident. Okay, so my point is that it's the gun, right? And Cassie's starting to say that it's not the gun. The gun I can set a gun loaded. I can set that gun on the street and it will sit there until a human picks it up. It will never fire on its own until someone does something to the gun to cause it to fire. Okay. So it's not the gun. And here's the truth. If you're in the UK or Australia, and Rick, you know this, look this up. You'll be able to tell me this, and I'm sure that you will. Okay. If you look at how many people were being killed in these countries that gave up their guns by guns, you're absolutely right. When everybody gave up their guns, the amount of people dying by guns went down by 100%, except for when the law enforcement killed them with guns. But the rate of murder with swords and knives and daggers and baseball bats increased to make up for the exact same amount of people being murdered. So it's not the gun, it's not the weapon, it is the culture that is producing people who are murdering other people. And that's what they don't want you to know about. And I've talked about this for years in this country. I have literally, if my other YouTube channel was up, you would see it got deleted by Google. But you would see that I made many videos starting in 2016 talking about this very thing. It's not the gun that does it. It's literally the one thing that's systemic is the causality in humans to murder, to lash out and murder people is systemic in our societies, not the weapons. The weapon of choice is the one they can get to use. And in England, and I know this for a fact, a few years ago, they brought before the parliament the idea of banning all sharp objects in the UK because people were murdering people with knives and forks and swords. This is not a joke. This really happened. You can look this up. And if you're in the UK, you know that went up in front of the House of Commons. And they were like, are you crazy for bringing that up as a possibility for a law? Shut up. No forks, no knives to eat with. You're saying, get out of here. No screwdrivers. What's next? See, you take away the swords, then you take away the daggers, then you take away the knives, then you have to take away all cutlery except for spoons or plastic sporks, because you can still take the plastic and make a shank out of it like we do here in America in the prisons. So you have to take away everything metal at that point because people are going to sharpen metal and sticks into points and kill people. You're not fixing the problem by taking away the outside source that people are using to kill people with. Because what they're doing is they're going to if someone wants to kill someone, they're going to find a way to do it if they have to do it with their bare hands. So you have to fix what is the common denominator. You have to use your brain. The common denominator is the humans that are doing this. But they use the one to tell you to get rid of the guns. Why? Okay, I've talked about that forever in this country. The amount of people that die every single year in the United States, not including military combat soldiers dying in war, is 18,000 people since 1969 all the way to 2023 in the United States of America every year. Oh my God, 18,000 people die by guns. We need to ban them. Really? Do you know how many people commit suicide in that same exact amount of time? And it's gotten higher since COVID. 56,000 people kill themselves every year in the United States of America. 18,000 get killed by guns, but we're banning guns, not trying to, but not suicide. Why? Because suicide's in the mind. Well, so is gun murder. Here's another thing. Do you know what the number one, this is the truth in the United States. I don't know about where you guys live. In the United States of America, the number one tool for murder in the United States of America is a hammer. A hammer. More people get bludgeoned to death with a hammer every year in the United States by double or triple how many people get shot by a gun and die. Okay. But we're not getting rid of hammers, are we? No one's even talking about that. Okay. 65,000 people die in car accidents every year in the United States of America. 18,000 people get shot by another human being inside the United States of America. We're not banning cars. They're trying to get rid of all the gas cars, but we're not banning any cars or buses. Do you see my point here, guys? They're selectively saying that something is bad. There's 180,000 people dying of fentanyl alone in the United States of America every year, and that's going up exponentially. But we're not doing anything about bringing drugs across the border of the United States, are we? Why? You have to follow the money. Who's making money off of this? Who is transporting these drugs? Who is paying for those drugs to have them brought here to make money? Oh, it's the Mexican cartels. Who do you think of the Mexican cartels? Mexican cartels are the CIA of the United States of America and the military. And if you guys watched that video that Dr. Stephen Greer put out last week, on whatever day that was, Saturday or Sunday last week, it's up on the in the groups and on my page. If you watch that live video where you had people, ex-military personnel, ex-CIA agents, ex-DEA agents up on stage telling you their stories. You was an ex-Marine who was in the Philippines to go over there and give them aid because they had a problem with I think it was a earthquake or a tsunami or something that hit the Philippines at that time. I forgot because that wasn't the important thing for me to remember. I apologize for that because I usually try to remember everything, but that wasn't important why they were there. But they were there to give aid. And when they landed, they were flying on the helicopter. They looked down. They were like, what the hell is that hovering in the air over there? Go and land over here so we can investigate that. It looked like a UFO, a UAP, a spaceship. It was. And guess what? There was American men dressed in military garb that was black, like black ops. That's what we call them in this country. They had no insignia or names or ranks on their uniforms at all. And they all had everything they had on was American made. Military outfits, shoes, shirts, pants, sunglasses, ammunition, weapons, driving Ford pickup trucks. And they had a whole bunch of cases that the military personnel, the ex-Marine who was telling the story, remembered because it usually has weapons in it. And it turns out it had fentanyl, money, and humans that they were smuggling. And they were literally loading them up on a platform that went up into the air to the UFO and flew away to take that stuff someplace. United States of America? Anyone? Central America to be then have them walk up into America? Anyone? Do you see? And this is a real life story from a whistleblower who, and I have to give credit, who Joe Biden signed into law a week ago yesterday, signed into law protecting people that are whistleblowers to be able to come forward and not have retaliation against them. So I got to give credit where credit is due there, but this is my point of evil sometimes trying to take control, and that does the opposite effect of what they're trying to do because it all serves the all. So them trying to lock down the world with this COVID is my point of this, actually woke up more people on this planet exponentially than have woken up since I've been alive. So by them doing what they're doing, this is what Ross said in this last session, the beginning of the last session, that when Dawn said, what if aliens did come down here and invade? And Ross said that would change the dynamics of the law of one. And what would happen is if 2 billion people showed up in spaceships to actually invade, 2 billion humans, no matter what whether they're in service to others or service to self, would all switch sides and be worried about taking care of us. The reason for that is the Hegelian dialectic. The reason for me telling you this is the Hegelian dialectic, which was a theory that Hegel, a man named Hegel, came up with, which was a formula that you cause a problem, COVID, the bird flu, swine flu, the flu of 1912. You cause a problem on purpose and act like it's something that's happening in nature that you have no control over. The entire time you already have at your disposal the cure for the problem, whatever it is, alien invasion. And then you tell the people and scare them, COVID, everyone needs to get the shot, but we don't have it yet. We're going to get it to you in a minute. It's going to take us a couple of months. They already had this. Guys like me showed you that Anthony Fauci filed 2 years prior to COVID ever being in existence, filed for his pharmaceutical company. Bet you don't know that he was working for one or owned one, had property in one. He was the very first CEO of Moderna, by the way, when it was split up from the German company that owns Bayer Aspirin, the Bayer company, because they were a conglomerate that was too big, and they were forced to split into 3 companies, and George Soros bought one, and that was the company that they split up that became Moderna. No, Pfizer. I apologize, Pfizer. And the very first CEO of Pfizer was, guess who? Anthony Fauci. Okay. So he no longer is the CEO for Pfizer, but he owns another stock in another company, Moderna. And so him and the head of the director of the CDC in the United States of America are partners that own part of Moderna. So he's promoting this shot as a cure to the world that you have to take it. And he's making billions personally and getting paid by the government millions to do this. And so is his partner. This has been proven. This is not a joke. This is not a conspiracy theory. This has been proven. Okay, why is that? The Hegelian dialectic is you create a problem on purpose, pretend that it happened naturally or some aliens invade, and then you say to the world, oh, we just happen to have this cure really fast. I mean, if they would have already had it when it came out, no one would have bought it. So they had to wait. They had to wait for and let everybody become afraid for 6 to 8 months before then. Then they promised that we're fast tracking it. We'll get it here as soon as possible. And who was in charge of that? Donald Trump, selling you that ideology. I'm making sure we can fast track it. Whether he didn't know that there was already a cure or whether he did, we don't know the answer to that. But he was involved in making sure that we all paid for it. Okay. So he could have not known, but it's just as likely 50-50 that he actually knew about it and was still going along with it. Okay. So you can't trust any of them because it's a religion. So the dialectic is you cause the problem, you then have the solution already, and you don't let people know about it. And then you sell them the solution at a cost of either a lot of money or freedoms or both. Okay. And then you give them the cure, and then you make the thing go away. They have plans for a mock alien invasion. I'm going to tell you about it, and a lot of people talk about it. And and when it happens, you're all going to freak out, and you're going to go, "It's not fake. They're actually killing people." You can't sell an alien invasion without destroying human lives, a lot of them, to scare the whole planet. Okay. And there is a quarantine around this planet, so nobody could do that and come here. No one can. They can't. I know this for a fact because I'm part of a coalition, and some of you in this crowd are as well. Part of a coalition that is off-world, that is way more advanced than what's going on this planet. And there's a quarantine, and that cannot happen. Cannot. I don't care what the force is. They can have a trillion personnel army, and they cannot invade this earth. Period. We locked this motherfucker down in a way and kicked the shit out of the aliens that did come here and did get boots on the ground by lying to the people with the Hegelian dialectic. That's their modus operandi. They came down here and said, there's aliens that took control of you and you're slaves, and we can help you to get out from that slavery if you let us come here, because of free will, they have to have permission. That's why the vampire can't come in without permission. Okay, that's what the whole story was about. So the people down here said, sure. Well, they didn't realize they were being invaded until it was too late. Okay, those people have left here. They're already gone. Those people are gone and ran for their lives because we came here to kill them and end their lives. And they ran. This is the truth of what's going on in the universe. But what's going on now is the insane asylum is being run by the crazy people. And they're trying to pretend that it's business as usual, and they're trying to keep their way of life the way it is, status quo. So the Hegelian dialectic, as I say it backwards, is cause, effect, solution. And by doing that, you're imprisoning people in some way. Look what they were trying to do with COVID. They were literally trying to take over the earth with COVID, locking you down, getting used to the idea, putting masks on your face, causing you to die from COVID telling you that all of the flu bugs around the world were eradicated and that the only thing that was killing people on the planet was COVID. That's the only way they could make it scary. And people like me who asked, well, how many people are dying from the flu? Never mind that now. It's COVID. Never mind that now. Well, how many people are dying from heart attacks? That's weird because the CDC doesn't have the numbers. Whenever I try to look up any numbers in the United States, I don't know about your country, when I tried to look up numbers in the United States for deaths rate of any other disease, it immediately went to COVID. And you couldn't find it. There was none. And then people just went, well, we must have eradicated the flu. Oh, we couldn't kill the flu for the entire existence of the human race until we got a deadly flu bug going. And then all of a sudden we cured the flu. Is that what you're trying to say to me? Well, yeah, because I got the shot and now I'm not going to die. But then all of a sudden that was a lie. Everybody was still getting COVID after getting the shot. And they were like, well, that's because it's a strong thing. It's really strong and it's resistant. So you have to get another shot. Yeah. Get another shot. And they kept doing that until people didn't buy it anymore. And then when people said your shots are bullshit and nothing's happening, when enough people said that, they just went, yeah, well, it's gotten weaker. So it's really strong and we can't cure it, but it won't kill you anymore. Well, that's what happens naturally with any disease. Look it up, guys. I'm a chemist. Look it up. Look up the progression of any disease, no matter what it is, including the bubonic plague. And there's some question about that because the bubonic plague, when it hit the Europe and killed all of those people, the people are starting to realize now that the weird thing that happened was that there was alien spaceships involved and people spraying the food that caused that to kill everyone. So what? Wait a minute. What, Leo? What did you just say? That was a group of aliens that live on this earth already, and it's the only reason they could be here. But they live in it, not on it. And they were trying to eradicate some of the humans because the humans were getting to be too many and getting too much technology. And then right after that, they decided to give technology to the humans so they would kill each other. And that's what they did in the 30s. Above Majestic tells you about that. Okay. In the 1930s, they gave technology to the humans so that they would destroy each other because whoever has the technology is going to want to use it. If they're evil, they're going to want to use it to kill off everybody else and control the population. Okay. So mock alien invasion is one of the ideas. Why? Because they have the technology. I know some of you are going to leave because you're going, my God, he's crazy. But you guys, some of you are already leaving when I talk about spirituality because you think I'm crazy, right? Here's the thing, guys. I'm not here to be Jesus Christ and wake you all up, okay? I'm here to give you back free will and wake up those people who are here to help do that so that you guys can take back your destiny on this earth. I am here as a beacon to wake up other people who are either ready to wake up or came here to have this to do the same thing I'm doing. That you guys out there who are wanderers may not have come here with the people I came here with. And there's more of you out there who came here individually to help than there are who came here in groups. But those of us who came here as a group, okay, those of us who came here as a group are finding each other and we're helping each other. And those of you who are wanderers, who are souls who came here legally and got yourself reveiled, and you are in a body and you're here and you're waking up, know that we are here to assist you, to assist these people. And that is what we are all here to do. We are all like-minded and we're all here to do that. So I'm not here to be the sacrifice, to be the lamb like Jesus was, or any of the other characters of Muhammad, Moses, who either got themselves killed for doing it, Mahatma Gandhi, or Stephen Biko. Some of you remember Nelson Mandela doing the same. Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther, who went against the church and started his own religion, the Buddha, the Lao Tzu, these people in history that, or Socrates, these people who died or didn't die but left behind knowledge. They have the same mission that I have, but I'm not here to be that martyr for the world. If I die and they kill me because I'm doing this, most of you probably won't know that that's why it won't be a big spectacle anymore. They don't do that. They learned not to do it in a big fashion, because when you do a big spectacle, a lot of people know that that's what happened, like with Jesus. It turns into teaching 5 billion people what they didn't want you to have happen. Okay, so they've evolved and they don't try to kill these people anymore. And there was a great video that we just put around that Anna got and found from somebody who gave it to Cassie, who gave it to me. And we were playing it where the guy has his daughters sitting there as if they're higher beings. And one daughter's talking to the other daughter about being on Earth and all of the progression of them killing the first volunteers who came to help, and that many, many millions of others, billions of others had to come to help. And so for the first ones who came, it was the hardest. And so we're past that. So I'm not here with a plan to become a sacrificial lamb for anybody or anything. I'm already doing that by what I'm doing. I'm not here to be the savior. But am I assisting and being a savior character? Well, yes. But I'm not here to be the savior. I'm here with everyone else who's here to help. And why is that? We came here legally. That's the only way you can come here if you're an alien. You have to come here legally. Okay. You cannot, and then by legally meaning you have to actually ask the council and they have to approve you. And then you can literally get in line and volunteer to then design a life and then be veiled, lower your vibration, be veiled and inserted into a human body, an embryo as it's growing, and then go through the exact process like everyone else. And some wanderers wanted to go even further down than that and literally go back to the first and second dimension and move back up because they either missed it the first time because they never had to go through it, or they want to do it again to experience it again. So not only are they coming in as third dimension, they're coming in prior to that as well. A lot of people don't know that, and we don't talk about that very much. Honestly, Ra doesn't even talk about that, but I know that. I know that. And a lot of other people know that who are in the position that I'm in. Okay. A lot of other people know that. Okay. So literally, you're not going to have an alien race show up here in spaceships legitimately. If an alien race pops up in the sky and starts killing people, they are from this Earth, no matter what they look like. They are from this Earth. And they're either projecting that they're actually non-human, or they're non-humans that are from here that you guys just don't know about. I'll be honest with you. I will be honest with you. They could be the Naga, because those people lived on this planet. They were part of the Atlantean crew that got here from many different walks of life. Same thing with the Draco. They want to tell you they've been here for about 5 billion years or 5 million years, right? Oh, we've been here for a long time. The Earth hasn't been here for 5 million years, okay? It was a ball of gas. So that's a lie, right? Some of the gray aliens, some of these people have been here the whole time living inside the Earth. We're the only ones who are living on top, okay? So there's other races that lived in the water, under the water. You hear these stories in all the ancient texts, and people go, they just made that up. It was just all fake. I was just writing about that in my book. That's part of the narrative of the lies to get you to not realize that we humans aren't the most intelligent people on this earth, first of all. I can tell you of whales, and just two, whales, dolphins, all forms of whales and dolphins, just those two by themselves are more intelligent, have a larger brain than the human beings on this earth. And they're fish in our minds, but they are, in fact, breathe air just like we do. Okay. So they are the same species in general that we are, only different species because we're a hominid that walks on the ground. But we all breathe air, and we all evolve the same way. We can't communicate with them because we're not smart enough to do so. So we assume, because they don't come out of the water and talk to us and go, hey, what's up, bro? That they're not intelligent. Same thing with freaking monkeys. They're only 5% different than us, gorillas. And they've proven that you can teach them sign language because they don't have vocal cords. So they can't communicate that way. And we're not intelligent enough to communicate through ESP unless we raise our vibration enough to do that, which is what Ra is talking about doing with the drugs. I know people are like, wait a minute, what's this got to do with anything with Ra? I'm going in circles here, guys. I'm telling you another grouping of parables, okay? I'm literally doing that. I'm on number 5 or 6 now. I lost count, so I won't sit here and do it all night. But my point is, we humans, because of our vibration and being in a low vibration, we become arrogant because we are more egoic. We're stuck in the ego, but that's supposed to happen that way. And the lie that they tell you is that you have been taken over by an alien race and that you're slaves, or created by an alien race to be slaves. Okay. Or that, we lost the First Temple War and we are slaves. Even Errol, the alien from Roswell, New Mexico, that didn't happen. Yes, Anna, Anna said ESP is real. Yes, ESP. Let's go down that road, right? I'll use that as the other parable instead of going down the alien road again. Let's do that. Okay. ESP is real. ESP is the graduation from childhood into adolescence. One of the first things that gets unlocked in you is the ability of sight of some sort, the ability of a higher perception, extrasensory perception. That's what ESP stands for. That is the adolescent soul, the soul that moves from being a child, egoic mind, aware of yourself, that you are, I think, therefore I am. But the fact that you say, I think, therefore I am, shows that you're a low vibration. That ideology is not bad because it's the beginning and you're on your way. You're no longer a baby. You're now a child, a preteen. When you become a teenage soul, you develop the mediumship of some kind. You develop the ESP, extrasensory perceptions. And individuals have the ability, you have the ability to learn them all. But what happens is as you start to ascend, something wakes up in you, and one of those abilities that you're better at will start to come into play. If you happen to have a DNA strand that is in your body that predisposes because you have other relatives that have certain abilities, that ability is going to be passed on to you, and the possibility of you waking up that ability first. And if you live in a family where they're aware of that, they're going to tell you of that, which is going to manifest that faster. In my family, we have my father, my mother's side of the family, both sides have a large amount of old world Celtic ancient religions, hence me getting the Merlin title from my father, which took me 18 years of my life to get. Literally. Not like you could just go out and take a couple year course at a college to get a doctorate. Mine was a lifetime to get the title. It was done the real way, the way that it was done. If you read the Sword and the Stone, the book, or the 18 or 21 lessons of Merlin, or go to and learn any of those schools of the Druid, ancient Druid way of teaching, or the ancient Wiccan way of teaching, or both, you will learn that and why they were separated into masculine and feminine, men being Druids and women being the Wiccans. Now they're both, but they still aren't teaching it properly. Now I've been involved in that since I was in my 20s, not a joke. And I know that they're not. It's unfortunate that they're not teaching both masculine and feminine. A lot of women or gay men or gay women are learning the Wiccan way, and they're not learning both masculine and feminine. The same thing with the Druids. I don't know how it is worldwide, and I'm hoping that they're now starting to integrate because they're starting to get back to the old ways. I want to manifest that, so I'm assuming that the West, we're always behind. So I'm assuming that America is still behind in that respect, and that those guys over there, because it seems like it in Europe and you guys in Australia and around the world that are spiritual, especially Europe. You guys are more ahead than America when it comes to spirituality. But in the same sense, you're also more ahead in the ruling class of elites that are egoic. So unfortunately for America and the UK, or Europe and America and Australia, because that's where the power source is of evil, we're also the power source of spirituality on the other side. But that's what we pay. We pay for that other side, unfortunately. So extrasensory perception is the first step, and then you can unlock any ability and all of them if you wish. It's just like learning a language. You can learn any foreign language, but if you focus on one, you're going to learn it faster and more of it and get better at it than if you do like I'm doing, where I'm teaching myself 22 languages. Okay. So that takes a little bit longer because you can't focus all of your energy on one. But extrasensory perception is when you are an adolescent or a teenager. I would say really more when you become a teenager. It's preteen until you then open up the ability to understand how ESP works and how abilities work. And once you start working with other people to where you start trying to wake up your own abilities and you start realizing to work with other people to help them, that's when you're a teenager. Now you're a teenager in your soul, not in the dimension, but in the density. The dimension is this physical place. The density is the spiritual place that your soul is in, and where your soul is as you develop and start remembering your actual soul as you ascend. Okay, so the abilities are unlockable, and you can then use those, and that unlocks your mind to another whole realm. Just the ideology and the awareness of, and that's why UFOs work for other people who don't believe in extrasensory perception. Weirdly, they'll accept aliens coming in spaceships. So the alien part that's here, that from history and being taught, is because it is part of reality. So because of that, that'll wake up in other people that other part. And then for those people, you have to realize, this is going in my book, everything that is as below, so above, as within, so without. The corruption is as above, so below, and as without, so within. That's the corrupted version to keep you into the caste system of thinking there's a higher source that is in charge, and that you are, in fact, beneath that source. That keeps you into the mindset of being taught everything on this earth and locked into this ego. So the realization that you are, in fact, at a higher level, that expansion of your consciousness, and the ideology of, this is what Ra is trying to teach in all of the 106 sessions, is the expanding of trying to expand Dawn's consciousness to the ideology and the realization, which literally is the first thing that Ra is teaching him when Ra comes through. Imagine you're a thought, right? Imagine, what did you think? What thought you today? And of that thought, what was it from the creator? What was from the original thought? And that all of this illusion is an illusion, and that it is in the mind of the creator. That's literally in the first session. The whole entire secret to the entire 106 sessions of Ra, the entire message is told to you in the first 15 minutes of the very first session. And after that, it's Ra telling parables in every session over and over and over and over and over. And the only time that Ra gets snarky is when Dawn asks the same question. He says, "We covered that already." Move on to the next question, please. Please restate your query, right? So expansion of your consciousness is you reaching up and starting to move up and ascend up, okay? And freeing your soul from this place of the mind that you're stuck in. All this is going in my book, literally writing about it. So Ra is talking about, at this point, trying to expand your consciousness. I love snarky Ra too. Cassie said, "I love snarky Ra," and Anna says, "Yes." Right. So the ESP and the unlocking of your extrasensory perception is literally putting you in the category. You don't know it, but it is. When you first learn the concept and start to accept it as a possibility, is the same as the realization that there is a God, and there is angels, and there is an astral level and a possibility of heaven. That's the same place, but it quickly moves. It moves faster in different places for each person. If you then hone your skills and turn yourself into a religious person that follows it, or a theologian who goes after and tries to learn all religions, that's going to unlock the same thing in you that going down the road of magic and ESP will unlock in you, or going down the road of theology or any other thing. That's why all of those things are there, to unlock those things in different ways. But until you then start to make the connection between the all, not just of yourself, but of everything that you see here in this place, you don't become the adult. Once you do that, or once you start waking up to being the adult, that means that you are mature. Your maturity level of you is higher than the age of 18, which then you will test as a genius on this earth when you take an IQ test. Then that unlocks other abilities in you. And when you progress to the ability, or unlock the infinite ideology, then you start progressing, and then that unlocks you to see the fourth dimension. And when you do that, that's the first time that you will pull back, and you will actually witness this entire operation that's happening here, this entire experiment, this entire existence, this entire thing that is happening, this experience that you're having from the outside standpoint of dimension, or outside of dimension, from the perspective of density. And when you do that, that is expanding your consciousness to the ideology of infinity, and that there is, there's your law of one. There is one true creator of the universe. And oh, wait a minute, I think we might all be part of that. We might all be one. That is when you become the adult. And then you start looking forward and upward and inward far more, because you realize that looking inward is looking outward, looking upward is looking downward, and you realize that everything is, and you start to get that, and then you grow exponentially faster once you get outside of the body into the fourth, and then you can get into the fifth density of the third dimension very quickly. And that uplifts everyone else around you slightly by doing so. Okay. So I know that some of you, I'm pulling you now into a place that is a little comfortable, and doing this was the point in the show when the numbers tend to drop from 12 people per second to 6 and a little bit more, because this is when I start pulling people up to a higher level, and some people are uncomfortable, and that's when they start going, this guy's crazy. Right? When I pull you to a place where it starts making you uncomfortable, you'll then start listening to me and go, I don't know if he's saying something that's a little crazy. That's the place that you need to be pulled into more and more often, because every time you go up there, when you come back down, you don't come as far down. And that's what, getting all the way back to the beginning, that's why I used Anna's ESP to tell you another parable, to give you the seventh one. I was going to quit at 6, but that is what let's go all the way back to talking about the drugs, and then we'll go with more Ra. Literally, that is what Ra is trying to explain, that through the drugs, you can use those to have a better channel, but those are fleeting, and you should also make sure that you're putting your mind and your body and your soul, your spirit, mind, body complex totality into the proper vibration to be able to make contact. And if you do that without the drugs, then it's that's a bonus. But if you still need to use ayahuasca, DMT, THC, LSD, PCP, something like that, and you do it on a low enough level to where you're not going to overdose and die from it, or you're doing it not recreational, but doing it with people that are also trying to assist you to make sure you don't have a bad trip, that you don't get stuck in the ego and get paranoid and scared, then you will that will accentuate that to a higher degree. And so that's where Ra is talking about currently. So I know, like I said, some of you probably ran away because I started talking politics. I went way down to a low level, and then I used that, and I moved all the way up to a very high level for most of you. I know that, and I know that most of you in this crowd can take that, because I've done it, and we've all spoke individually, most of us. So I know what you guys can take. And I know that some of you are going, go higher, bro, you can do it, because some of you would be okay with that, but we would lose everybody. I'd be down to about 4 of us. If I did that, I'd make people too uncomfortable. Right. Okay. So let's continue. Right. Because now I've been talking so much, I need to get a drink. On my throat's starting to hurt. So let's let Ra talk for a minute while I take a drink.
Much of the mystic tradition of seeking on earth holds that belief that the individual self must be erased or obliterated and the material world ignored for an entity to reach nirvana, as it's called, or enlightenment. What is the proper role of the individual self and its worldly activities in aiding an entity to grow more into the law of one? Ra, I am Ra. The proper role of the entity is in this density to experience all things desired, to then analyze, understand, and accept these experiences, distilling from them the love/light within them. Nothing shall be overcome. That which is not needed falls away. The orientation develops.
Right. Okay. Quickly, because of Anna's analogy right here, I want to talk about that. She said she was going to write earlier. She says, I was going to write earlier that we need to look at a tree. You have one stem, right? But the tree has many branches, and it is one tree, but many branches reach for the light. Let's continue with that. That's as without. Let's look at as within. The representation of the tree manifesting before our eyes is as below, so above. So also, too, does that one trunk grow into the ground and have many tentacles, many branches that grow off of the tree of life, for instance, is represented by that, showing you that as below, so above. So what you see, the 0 point is the earth, where the tree disappears into the ground, and what you see and perceive here is everything from the trunk up. But when you look at the under the ground, it is just the same above or below the ground as it is above the ground. That literally, to sustain the tree as large as it is above the ground, it also has to have that amount of hold on the earth to keep itself from falling over. So as below, so above, as without, so within. And that's the representation of the tree of life, which is the representation in a physical plane of existence before your eyes of you and everything else in the universe, that you have the same depth within you that you have without. And that the representation of the trunk, which is what Anna is talking about, is you. You are the trunk that is here, but you are within as much as you are outwardly out without, but you don't see the outwardly, like you don't see the trunk or the roots system under the ground of the tree. But if you go and dig that up, you'll find, but just as the tree falls over and kills you if you're in the wrong place, you'll find that that it is literally equal above ground and below ground. Okay, you are literally a representation. So everything manifests in the physical, that manifests in the spiritual as well. So what you are within, you are without. So that as the tree, right? So as you. So what you are when you look within yourself, the depths that you can go within your soul to fix yourself or to better yourself, will be the same depths you will go on the outside and above yourself, because you will then become brighter as you go into the darkness. This is what the underworld in all of the ancient religions was discussing. The underworld wasn't the evil place where the devil ruled. That was a perversion of those religions as time went to control people. So when you read the Book of the Dead from the Egyptians, or Thoth from the Egyptians, or you read the stories of the Odin and Thor and them going to the dwarves under the mountain and forcing them to make weapons for them, some people will tell you, well, that was aliens and they were the Greys and they were forcing them to make that. And that's a one third dimensional ideology of that story. And you could take it that way because it'll still manifest as a representation of the underworld. And the same thing with all other religions. And if you look at the lesson with Luke Skywalker he was in that one was in Empire Strikes Back, when he went to the moon with to meet up to Yoda, and Yoda said when they went to this place and there was a hole in the ground, and he said, "Oh, I feel cold." There's that place is, and he said, "Strong with the dark side is that place, and you must go." And he said, "What's in there?" And he said, "Only what you take with you." That was the representation of the underworld from the ancient religions, and him also going within himself. And that was what the underworld was being told as when they told you that the underworld. So the god of the underworld in all these ancient religions that they were saying, Set and all of these people from all these religions, the Greeks, the Romans, all of that, even the Vikings, that the underworld is the within. That is the within. That's the evil part or the darkness within yourself. So it either manifests in this physical as your ego, and you being in service to self, or it is the depths of your soul, because those are both the same. To fix the depths of your soul, you must go into yourself, and when you do that, you're going in there and facing your ego. So the Jedi couldn't be the Jedi until he faced some Sith, and the Sith is the ego. That's the representation, is that it is manifest in the human form as evil, but that's exactly what is going on in real life. So the underworld is not evil, it is the darkness within. So then he went down there, and if you go and watch that movie, you'll see that he draws his lightsaber first, and then Darth Vader draws his second. He turns his on first, Darth Vader turns his on second. He attacks Darth Vader, and then when he chops Darth Vader's head off, the helmet explodes, and it's him in there. It was himself. That was the same battle that you read about from Lancelot, when Lancelot fought himself and injured himself. That was him going into the darkness and fighting his ego, because that was what ruled him and why he cheated and had sex with Guinevere. And so he had to go and fight himself to get rid of that, and that manifested in the wound, because he actually wounded himself in real life doing that, and it manifested, and that actually stayed with him for the rest of his life. That wound never healed properly because he had hurt his own soul by the realization of cheating with his best friend and mentor and king with his wife. So that never left him, and that guilt he never healed from, because he never actually forgave himself, even though Arthur had forgiven him. He didn't know that until Arthur died. And that's why Lancelot didn't die, because Lancelot realized that Arthur forgave him the moment that it was over, and that Arthur was also holding himself accountable. And that's why he went to go and make amends with Guinevere because he thought he was going to die. And he went to the convent and he told her, I love you, and that I forgive you because it was me and I had to forgive myself. But in the movies, they don't really show that so much. They always try to make the man look really cool. And so he doesn't say that. But if you read the real story of that in the Sword and the Stone, that's part of the Merlin sagas, you'll see that he did that there, and he made amends with her and told her that it wasn't her fault, that it was his fault for allowing it to happen. And then he forgave her, and she said, you have to forgive yourself, not me. You have to do this for you, not me. And that's when he realized that and went to face his son, which was another sin that he had. And that's where the whole Christianity got mixed into it. Because of the incest of what was going on there, but it was more about necromancy than it was in the religion at the time, the Druid Wiccan religion. But that was also the same lesson of going within, and he had to remember that was the secret of the Grail. You and the land are one, right? And with it, when you thrive, so too does the land. That was the lesson that was being taught in that, was that you have to realize that I am one. We are one. That is the realization of expanding your consciousness to the higher level, which is what Anna was referring to once you get to the ESP and you go above. Okay, so there was my 7th parable for that. Right, so let's continue. Right, here we go.
Due to analysis of desire. These desires become more and more distorted towards conscious application of love/light as the entity furnishes itself with distilled experience. We have found it to be inappropriate in the extreme to encourage the overcoming of any desires, except to suggest the imagination rather than the carrying out in the physical plane, as you call it, of those desires not consonant with the law of one, this preserving the primal distortion of free will. The reason it is unwise to overcome is that overcoming is an unbalanced action creating difficulties in balancing in the time/space continuum. Overcoming thus creates the further environment for holding on to that which apparently has been overcome. All things are acceptable in the proper time for each entity, and in experiencing, in understanding, in accepting, in then sharing with other selves, the appropriate description shall be.
Right, Pamela, happy birthday again. It is Pamela, right? That's saying she's going to go. I don't have my glasses on, but I think that's what she said. Yeah, sorry, I got it. I can't stay awake. I got to go. Pamela, we love you. Happy birthday. Make your birthday another day. Make it run as long as you can. Let people celebrate you. My buddy Paul did that one time for a whole weekend, and then one year it turned into almost an entire month, and everybody just kept saying happy birthday to him, and he laughed about it. So keep that birthday going for tomorrow, right? Have a great night. So now you guys see, though, if you're listening to what Ra is saying here, you're seeing that all of the parables that I just gave you actually pertain to what Ra is talking about. Let's continue.
Moving away from distortions of one kind to distortions of another which may be more consonant with the law of one. It is, shall we say, a shortcut to simply ignore or overcome any desire.
Right, I'll give you the Druid send-off, Pamela. Sleep well, dream. If you ever watched any of the movies with Merlin, that's a Merlin thing. Sleep, dream. Have a great night.
It must instead be understood and accepted. This takes patience and experience which can be analyzed with care, with compassion for self and for other self. 18.6 Questioner. Basically, I would say that to infringe on the free will of another self or another entity would be the basic thing never to do under the law of one. Can you state any other breaking of the law of one than this basic rule? Ra, I am Ra. As one proceeds from the primal distortion of free will, one proceeds to the understanding of the focal points of intelligent energy which have created the intelligences or the ways of a particular mind/body/spirit complex in its environment, both what you would call natural and what you would call man-made. Thus, the distortions to be avoided are those which do not take into consideration the distortions of the focus of energy of love/light, or shall we say, the logos of this particular sphere or density. These include the lack of understanding of the needs of the natural environment, the needs of other selves mind/body/spirit complexes. These are many due to the various distortions of man-made complexes in which the intelligence and awareness of entities themselves have chosen a way of using the energies available. Thus, what would be an improper distortion with one entity is proper with another. We can suggest an attempt to become aware of the other self as self and thus do that action which is needed by other self, understanding from the other self's intelligence and awareness.
Right. So seeing other people and becoming aware that they are a reflection of you as you are a reflection of them, and acknowledging other people, first of all, as a equal entity to you, right? And respecting them for who they are instead of looking at people as if I have superior DNA, I am superior race, I am superior because I have a higher station of job or money or whatever. You see, all of that is the caste system, and if you have that ideology of I'm better than you because I make more money or I have more things that's all ego. That's very low vibration. So that's another form, right? To go to another parable, that's another form of realization of the other. And this is what Ra's talking about here, which is the same. It helps you to expand your consciousness again, because first of all, to have the insight or think about the fact that someone else is equal to me and that we are all the same, then that says that I am you, you are me. And then you're on your way at that point, because that is giving you a higher a plane of existence to recognize. And by doing so, you then start putting yourself into the situation of paying attention to other people and not being mean to them and saying, well, I wouldn't want them to say that to me. Hence the do unto others as they do unto, as you would want them to do unto you. Instead of choosing do unto others before they do it to you, that's ego. That's the same as saying do what thou wilt, but harm none. And then saying, yeah, do what thou wilt. That's the ego is about self-serving. So do unto others before they do that shit to me, because they're gonna, well, yeah, because they're evil like you, and that means that you're paranoid because you believe they're going to, because you would. So this is that right there. That's the expansion in another way of the consciousness into infinity, or the infinite wisdom, as you start to move to adulthood, and that's where we're talking about now, or what Ra is talking about now.
In many cases, this does not involve the breaking of the distortion of free will into a distortion or fragmentation called infringement. However, it is a delicate matter to be of service, and compassion, sensitivity, and an ability to empathize are helpful in avoiding the distortions of man-made intelligence and awareness. The area or arena called the societal complex is an arena in which there are no particular needs for care, for it is the prerogative/honor/duty of those in the particular planetary sphere to act according to its free will for the attempted aid of the social complex. Thus, you have two simple directives: awareness of the intelligence.
Right. Yeah. Peter, he'll put stuff cryptically in it, and then sometimes he apologizes for it. Never apologize for that, Peter. I may not say it out loud. A lot of times I'm afraid to, because if I give the analogy of what I see that you're writing, that could trigger one of the algorithms. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't mention that. But yeah, if you guys do the math of what he was putting up there right there, and I'm trying to do it quickly in my head. I don't have my calculator out, but using the Pythagorean theorem and looking at that, especially when you see, like, if you guys have read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it's the only place that I have found where anyone in any doctrine talks about the triangle in the realization of there's 15 chapters. I just went back and listened to it all over, read it all over yesterday. And in that, I mean, first of all, it's 15 parables. So if you're listening to or reading the golden or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, going into it, if you don't catch that, then you're just not. It's just because you're not ready to. But if you start going through something and realize that it's nothing but a bunch of book of parables, don't stop, because you're going to learn different things from each parable, even though you know that they're pointed at the same story. So literally, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are 15 chapters, and each one of those chapters is telling you the exact same thing over and over and over and over from a different perspective, and giving you different ways of getting to the same conclusion of 369. I actually realized something that I hadn't realized before from doing that. That literally they talk about the 7 chakras, but they don't talk about it from 1 through 7. They talk about the 7 chakras as 3 through 9. And I didn't put that together before, because I always knew there was something wrong with the chakras, and I keep trying to push people to 12 and to 15. And people are like, but then only 9 is the controlling factor. And I was like, yeah, I know, but that's just in a physical and a spiritual. And then I got to thinking about that and was like, no, that's not right, because it is. That's just the way it is. And then I realized that Thoth 6,500 years ago. Some people want to say that Thoth was just written 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Doesn't matter. They literally shift. And everyone says the base red root chakra is chakra number 1. It's not. It's chakra number 3. Okay, it's number 3. And if you literally put that base that way, 3, 6, and 9 is base red ray chakra, heart chakra, and then the third eye chakra. 3, 6, 9. And that is where it's supposed to be. I actually didn't realize that, even though I kept thinking it and I was writing it in my book, I wasn't actually making the numerology concept sound until I went back and literally read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth yesterday. And as I was doing that, I kept going through the whole thing going, yes, these are all parables. I was doing the same thing with the Hermetica. The Hermetica is the exact same thing. And then I was doing Daniel. I started Daniel after that. And I realized that Daniel, I went through and read the entire book of Daniel from the Hebrew Bible or the Christian Bible, whichever version. And I realized that every story in Daniel is the same story. It's parables, all of them. They're all pointing to the same thing, which is the same thing that Thoth was saying, by the way, which is the same thing that the revelation of Jesus is saying, by the way. That's going into my book about theology that I can literally translate the scrolls. I talked to Cassie about that. And it happened, it literally happened at one time. I'm going to tell you guys the story. Some of you, because those of you who are here right now, I know that the crowd is down to 5, and I know what 5 of you are here. So you 5 are going to get this, and everybody else who's listening to this on MP3, you're going to get something that a lot of you out there are going to say I'm crazy, and there's no fucking way. Literally, this happened to me over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. Okay, I was reading all the scripts, and I've been doing that my whole life. That's why I say I'm a theologian. I literally have been studying religion and all scripts and all scrolls and all tomes that I can find on the earth, and I go back and reread them over and over and over and over. Okay, that's not a joke. I do that. Anybody who knows me, Cassie, you know that. I'm a nerd. I do that all the time. She says, "What are you doing?" I was reading the Hermetica. She's doing that now. My sister's even starting to do that. You can't help but do it. I know Peter does it too. Peter's always doing that, and he's to start reading the book of Kells. That'll take you a while. Okay, so I was literally, and I haven't found this yet. I'm going to find this, guys, and I'm going to tell you about it. And this was not a dream. Okay, this was not a dream. This happened because it happened while I was awake, and it happened right before my eyes. I'm going to tell you the story, and this is not a joke. This is an actual fact. I was not asleep and did not dream this. I was sitting up, and I started watching a video of an elder scroll. I don't remember which story it was. It wasn't Gilgamesh. It might have been the Aluma Elish in the original translation with the words missing. But I'm not sure if that was the one or not, because I'm not believing that this scroll actually exists in reality. Let me tell you why. So I find a scroll, and I start listening to it one night. At that time, I was drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana. And I realized that there was something about this scroll that was catching my attention in a weird way, and I was starting to figure something out. So I thought, I must be really high and drunk, so I'm going to table this. I'm going to come back tomorrow when I'm not drinking and high, and I'm going to be sober, and I'm going to look at the scroll and see if I'm just tripping because I have a lot of THC and alcohol on board. So I stopped. The next day, I go through the whole day thinking about it, and then I put my mom to bed at about 10 p.m., and I sit down, I make myself a drink, but I don't start drinking it. I leave it sitting next to me, and I don't go and smoke a bowl, and I'm sitting there, and I said, okay, so let's start looking at this scroll again. And I start looking at the scroll, right? And I'm literally saying this, and my internet is starting to freak out, so I'm going to wait until it comes back. Isn't that funny? So right? Yeah, I was just telling Cassie about this. The other night, right? Literally, was it 2 nights ago already? I thought it was just last night. Wow, that's crazy. See, time is really starting to fuck me up. Okay, so I know that my internet is acting up right now, and I have a little stick, and it's starting to come back, so I'm going to continue and try to get around the algorithm. So I'm literally looking at this scroll the second night, and I start reading it, and it's also audio, so I'm able to hear it and see it. And I made a drink, but I'm not going to drink this. I'll drink this if I, decide to, I'll give up on this scroll and just go back to, I'm going to drink and maybe smoke a bowl. So I stopped. Well, this is before I quit drinking. I haven't been drinking now for over a year. A year ago, this last March, I quit drinking. So this was before that. It was like in September or October of the year prior. We're in 2023. So that would have been 2021. because 2022 was last year and now we're in 2023. So it was in 2021, somewhere in the holidays of the year 2021. And I find this scroll and I start reading it. And now know that, guys, know that I'm a code breaker. The US government wanted me to be a code breaker for them. It was part of the things that they tested me about. And I see codes in everything. I always have as a child. I'm able to break codes, and even a buddy of mine would hand me something and go, "You're the code breaker. Tell me what the hell this code means. What is this I'm looking at? What does it mean?" Not a joke. Okay. People still come to me with stuff. I found this on a website, or people, some of you know this in the crowd. If Pamela was here, she's done it. I've dreamt this, and here's these symbols. What do they mean? I don't even know what they are. And I'll look at them and decipher them. This is what I do. It's part of what I do. Okay. So I'm listening to this scroll and I'm realizing, because they have it translated into words, but the words that are being used are not quite modern English. And I'm realizing that this is weird, because most of the time when they translate a scroll, it's completely in English for you to understand what they're saying. And this scroll wasn't. And I'm like, this is weird. So I start listening to it. And as I'm going through it, it had many chapters. It was like 8 chapters. As I was going through it, I noticed something. This is where I was finding the algorithm in it. I was finding the code in it. I realized I was also one of the people that investigated the Bible code and the skip trace program algorithm that they used for the Bible code. Literally, I spent probably about 2 years learning the Bible code and deciphering that skip trace code that they would use. Because of me being a code breaker, I was looking into that. And because somebody said, I just told, you guys took the Hebrew Bible and did the skip thing, with every other letter, and you came up with all this bullshit. I did Moby Dick because it has almost the same amount of letters and words in it. And I also got the code. And I found that realization, and this is back in 2007. Literally. And I realized then that the code is in everything. Everything. That same code is in. Okay. That you literally, it doesn't matter the book you take, you can literally use this skip trace program and you can literally see what's going on in the universe. So I know there's a code there, and they also did, and said that they didn't know what the key is to the code to break it. That goes back to the Bible of saying to Daniel, write this down and now lock it up in your mind, and you can't know it until later on in life. Now, I'm not trying to say this because I'm trying to say that I'm some savior again. So know that, okay? I don't believe that I'm the only one that knows this, but I haven't found anybody else yet, okay? But I know it's going to happen, and I believe that I'm probably going to be one of the people that are going to be helping people to get to this point. So I'm reading this scroll, and it is supposed to be in English, but I can tell it's different versions of English, Old English, which I'm not really fluent in, and different languages. And I'm thinking that there's a version from the future as well. And it seems to be, as I'm listening to it, I realize that there in every chapter, there are certain words in certain places that I do understand completely in my version of the language that I'm speaking to you now. So my brain immediately said, wait a minute, what if this whole thing is jumbled up? Because that's what Nostradamus did with his quatrains. And I know that because I taught myself to read 15th century French to make sure that the people who were actually trying to translate the quatrains were actually translating his words properly, because I didn't believe that they knew what the hell they were doing when they were translating it, because they were getting it wrong. And I went and taught myself that. And the reason I did that was because I found someone who actually translated all of the quatrains, and I read all of them actually translated. And that book is banned, and you cannot find it on this planet. Okay, that's another time in my life, but I wasn't the only one who did that. I know 3 people that actually read the same book, and that the 3 of us from that day until this have been checking off the list of everything that was predicted by Nostradamus, exactly word for word. I knew that 9/11 was going to happen prior to 9/11, and I was trying to warn them, and that just got the FBI looking at me and investigating me as if I was a terrorist. Okay, so I stopped trying to tell them. Another person who knew that went to what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he was the president or whatever they call that of Israel. And he tried to warn him that he was going to be assassinated, and he didn't believe him, and he got assassinated. Okay. That was somebody who read the same, it was not one of my friends though, but somebody who read the same thing. I found that out afterwards, and he was investigated because he tried to tell them over and over, you're going to get killed, and he didn't listen to him and he got killed. Okay. So I know that, and I can't prove that that book exists to this day because I can't find it anywhere, but my buddy bought it. And it was shipped in a brown paper wrapper to his house. So someone else had the book and was trying to get it out to the world and sent it to him. And it was out of a magazine that literally like a Guns and Ammo or something in the back page. And he ordered it and it came and he reread it. He gave it to me. I read it. I gave it to my friend. He read it. He gave it to a friend and never saw it again. It went away. Then from that day when I was 16 years old until this one, I cannot find that book to buy that book anywhere online, anywhere on the world, and I don't know anyone else who has read it to say they have a copy of it. So it has been taken off the shelves, and it literally told of a bunch of things that I'm not sure now with my memory if I have more prophecy because of being awake or if it's all just from the pages of that book. That being said, I know that things like that happen. So I'm reading the scroll and I think to myself, this is a skip trace. I'm reading the second word and then like the fourth or fifth word. And I started doing the math, and Peter's putting up the numbers on the screen right now because I think he realizes where I'm going. I've never told this story, but it's apropos that he's using 6s and 9s in the triangle because it literally was, you have to remember that I was a physicist and that I understand 3, 6, and 9. And I also get it far more than anyone else. I know as much, I believe, as Tesla did, but I won't tell everybody about that because they want that knowledge. And so I get, and that's why I was bringing up the 3, 6, and 9 and the chakra, the first chakra actually not being the first chakra, being number 3. And if you look at your body that way, 3, 6, and 9 is the base red ray chakra, the heart chakra, and your crown chakra, your third eye chakra. And that is literally creation. So I literally see that this is some sort of skip program. And so I literally got paperwork out and I was writing down every word that I saw on the screen, but I wasn't copying it just from the screen. I was writing the places of where every word was, and every word that I could actually understand 100% clearly in this modern English, I would write that word on the page, and then I would write it on one master page for all of them, and I had each one. So I learned that there were 8 different languages that were being spoken. So I literally had 8 pages in front of me, and I was filling in the blanks from each chapter would have another grouping of the modern English words or letters that I could understand in the exact place they should be when you separated them all and identified each one as an individual language and separated them respectively, that you literally got you had 8 different, literally the same message in 8 different languages that were based on an English language that I speak currently. And I actually could see that some of them were going backwards in time and some were going forwards in time. Anna, you know what I'm talking about because you just sent me last night, literally however long that was, 2 minutes and some seconds of an activation in I don't know what you call that, a star language. And you, literally you were like, I don't know if you're gonna resonate with this. And then you got from up there, oh no, he will. And literally I was like, wow, I actually get this. And even though I don't know the words, I haven't heard the words with these ears. You know that because we had this conversation last night. Okay. So I literally identified in this scroll that there was something in light language. Thank you. I couldn't think of that right now, the light language. And I know that because a year ago when we did a Earth Day, we literally had a woman from the UK that was on that literally was speaking light language on air for us. It was either last year or the year before. I think it was just last year. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was last year. So, Earth Day, not this one we just passed, but the one from 2022. So literally I did this and I separated them all. And then when I was done, I literally picked up the piece of paper and I read the entire message. And when I was done with the entire message and I got it, the entire message literally disappeared from all of the sheets of paper in front of me as if I never wrote anything. There was not even an indent into the paperwork. And when I looked up on the screen, the scroll that was being played in the video was no longer there. And I couldn't find it again. However, I realized that changed something within me in my perception and didn't know what it was. So I went, what the hell just happened? And I was like, I must have fallen asleep. Did I fall asleep just now and dream that? I have paper spread out like I was going to write on it and a pen in my hand. And there was a video in front of me, and I have memory of doing this action for another hour. And I looked at the clock and no time had passed, none. So it wasn't like I fell asleep and had a dream and woke up, unless that dream happened instantaneously and it happened right now outside of time. And then I was opened my eyes. It's the only way that could have happened. And then I said, I don't know what just happened. And I started drinking my alcohol, went and smoked a bowl and thought about it and went, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm not going to be messing around with any kind of spiritual shit today. I'm going to play a video game. And I played World of Warcraft and didn't think about it. The next day, that night, I decided to start looking for the scroll and couldn't find it. And then, because I couldn't find it, I started looking at other scrolls and I started reading them. And I went, wait a minute. I'm looking at the scroll and I'm reading it. And I'm like, hold on a second. I think that I'm able to get this in a way that I've never gotten this before. This can't be right. Am I seeing this? Then I couldn't get enough. I never said a word to anybody. And I spent almost the next year reading every scroll and every Bible and every tome I could find over again and over and over and over. And guess what, guys? Okay, guess what? I can translate every scroll I've ever read, every scroll that is out there. I actually get the message that is trying to be told on those scrolls. Not just when I say this to you, like when I've said this before, all the scrolls are just, child stories for children. That's true. That is true. But every scroll, this is where it was my Neo moment of the awakening and seeing ones and zeros and ones. Only I don't see that. I see spirals. And the realization that the two halves of the universe is literally manifest in the spiral and the angles. Not the triangle, but the triangle is part of that. The angles. So the Fibonacci sequence is the mathematical equation of the angles. The golden mean ratio is the same mathematical equation that is the arc on the outside. And I realized that over a year and a half ago. And I already knew that instinctively because all my videos that you put out, including the one for the beginning of the show, are showing you that, which I knew then. But now further than that, all of the scrolls, all of the writings in all of the books that everybody says was borrowed from another religion, or Jesus was invented according to the Jews, invented by the Catholics, invented by the Romans to control people, and that all religions are fake and that they were designed to control people. Part of that is true. All of them are being usurped by evil people to control people. That is true, and that is on a level that is there. But the higher level of all of these scrolls is the exact same message. And for me now, it's hard to read a scroll because I have to look at the scroll and say, what am I missing from this? Because I realize that all the scrolls are all redundant and they're just parables telling you the exact same story over and over and over and over and over. I'm not joking. And every time I go back to watch or read anything, I read the book of Daniel. People say, "Oh, Daniel's warning about the Antichrist," and then, yeah, there is a part of that. There is a level of awareness there that is inferring that there's a great evil that you're fighting against. But the truth is that great evil is inside of you, and if you're not aware of that, it's going to manifest for you in the physical, and that's why it's there. And it only will manifest for those people in the physical who need that to manifest for them for their expansion of consciousness. And that's what the scrolls are actually showing you. And I'm going back even now. I literally just did the entire book of Daniel, the entire Emerald Tablets of Thoth, working on I'm halfway through the Hermetica. This is just in the last 3 days. I'm not joking you. And all of them are telling the same exact story. All of them. But I'm also perceiving that all of them are telling different stories on every level, but all of those stories they're telling on each level, from the lowest vibration in third dimension to at least as high as where I am, because I'm sure that there's perceptions that I haven't unlocked yet that I'm going to get from all of this. So I realize that now it doesn't matter how high your vibration is, because it's in everything. It's so in everything. I said that before, but it is so in everything that even if you read I wrote a book. I've written 3 books. When I go back and look at my own book, I realize that the Bible code they were talking about, the God code, is even it's in everything. When you think you're making something up and you're writing a story of any kind, the 3-dimensional story that you're telling is there. And then below that and above that, unbeknownst to you, because of the perfection of the mathematical equation that is this illusion that has been in the mind of the creator itself, the message is also there. And that's what they tell you in everything, including the entire Dead Sea Scroll that says the Book of Truth. The Book of Truth is talking about Jesus, and somebody was trying to venerate Jesus as a god. But to do that, the truth in the Book of Truth, it says that error created the human race. And that error decided that she wanted to create like God, and created the human race. And then it says, right, here's on the 3D level, to venerate God. If the creator of the universe, if God didn't create the human race, that doesn't matter, because the creator created error, and error created the human race. So it was still by the will of God. On a 3D level, that ties you to the God. On a higher level, that's telling you the exact same story in a different way, that is telling you now I'm being stopped. Now I was going to tell you something that the planet's not actually ready for. And I literally was just stopped by the other side, because I was going to take you to a 5-dimensional or 5-density, 6-density reality. And they literally just stopped me from going there to tell you what I was literally just going to tell you. So this information that I was just going to say on that level about that story is the planet here is not ready for yet. Okay. But let me come back down a level to where you guys can actually understand that as a whole. I bet you individually, I could probably talk to Peter or Cassie or Anna, and we could probably discuss that and get away with it, because we're at a high enough level. I don't know who else is here listening to us. But because it's going out to the world right now, that information, they just literally stopped me. And the more I tried to force it, they just took it and said, no, they can't know this yet. So that can't be. So there's still, we have to work within bounds, guys. And I know for some of you out there, that wall that I just hit will validate in your mind that I'm making it all up. that this is all fake. But when you start having that happen to you, you'll realize, wow, that's not a joke. Okay. So, but let me see if I can put it into a different perspective that's not that high. Okay. So even that story is literally on its face just trying to venerate Jesus. But the reason they took it out of the Bible is because it is actually giving you and walking you through the way to free yourself. That story I just told you, I realized when I was watching it before, because I watched this one version where they have, I guess it's supposed to be Holy Mary, and she's standing and she has fire as her aura around her body. And I realized that she was wearing a dress, a gown, and a hood over her head. And this is, here's me seeing things on multiple levels, and some of you might be offended by me saying this, but I realized that they were showing she's being the feminine energy. And then I realized that a woman standing with her hands in the prayer position over her heart, wearing a robe with a hood over, also mimics the female genitalia. When you look at the female genitalia, which mimics the goddess and the symbol of the goddess, meaning only women can bear life. And the feminine energy is only in the feminine. And that the masculine energy is completely different. So you have the yin and the yang. You have the war and the peace. You have the war and the nurture and the nature. One is soft and one is angles. Do you see the feminine being the spirals and the masculine being the angles? And I realized that even the visual of the female body standing the right way literally shows you she becomes the womb. She becomes and is the symbol, and her outline of her body is the exact same outline of the female genitalia, which is the feminine, which is the V to the masculine chevron. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I just tripping on this? That was part of it, my realization. So not only does the feminine, and that's why if you look at back in the old religions, they show the female body, right? And then have the spiral in the area of where the child is born for the goddess. So the female body in and of itself is a physical representation of the womb. And I know this doesn't make sense to some of you, and I'm all right with that. Okay. So the male body is also the literal physical representation of the phallus. Not to mention that we have that part as our sexual organ, our reproductive organ. Okay. Not to mention that, or to mention that. Not saying that it is that is the only representation, is that physical piece of the male anatomy or the female anatomy. But that the whole representation of both is that representation. And that was something that unlocked within me as well when I realized that, when I see that. Physical manifestation, as below, so above, as within, so without. Physical manifestation of the shape of the female body is actually the same representation as her anatomy. And the same is said for the male in all species. See, now this is really high. This is 5D. So I know that some of you are probably not following this. This is the 5D. 4D, let's talk about that, okay? The third dimension is this place. Third density is your spiritual mindset in this place when you are aware of yourself and you're starting to move up spiritually. When you start thinking, I am spirit, that is the four-dimensional density. The representation of that, or realization of being outside and above and not of the body, is that 5 or 4-dimensional realization. The 5th dimensional spiritual place to be in this physical 3rd dimension is the realization of infinity, is the realization of the higher self, is the realization of the all, and being able to actually perceive that. That is the 5-dimensional aspect of this 3rd-dimensional plane of your spiritual existence. Okay. And so when you do that, you start perceiving things as within, so without, as below, so above. When you do that, like the analogy of the tree of life, the wheel of life, all of these things, the Vitruvian man or woman, the circle with the pentacle, or the Star of David, all of those are representations, different representations of the heart chakra. All of those are representations of the toroidal field, the torus field, that is your aura, that is only apparent and only something that is excitable or able to give off a wave that can be detected only through the heart chakra. The realization of that is 5-dimensional realization, because that is the charm of making. That's what Peter was showing with the 3s and the 6s and the 9s and the triangles. What I said, that's apropos that Pete put that into visuals right then. We are the 3, 6, and 9. I've talked about that forever. And I didn't think about the perspective of the heart of the chakras. We have the chakras counting wrong. Counting the chakras as 1 through 7 is wrong. The chakras are 7 chakras, but they're not 1 through 7. They're 3 through 9. That is the 4D and 5D realization of the human spirit and condition, is that the red ray chakra, the root chakra, is not the first chakra, it's the 3rd chakra. Okay. There are two below that spot. That is the third chakra. Even though the third chakra place is the yellow ray, in the physical and in the expansion of your soul, you're supposed to go through the red chakra as number one, as the first place you are sentient. But it's the third place. It's the beginning. It's not the beginning of existence of your soul. It's the beginning of your soul as a consciousness. Do you see? This is the part that I can expand. This is where the 12 that I keep pushing everybody to comes into play, and to the 15. Okay. Why is that? Because if in fact the red ray chakra is the third chakra, not the first one, because there is two planes below this existence. Third dimensional existence is the consciousness existence in this place, but there are first and second dimensional beings that are here: trees, cats, dogs, water, fish. They're for grass, plants. They are first and second dimensional. Those are chakras that are connected to you and I, because we were those first. So what we count as the first chakra, and this is why our realization as an entire human species evolved, because at a time, well, the first, second, third, and fourth chakras going up to the seventh chakra was all that we knew. And even that, because Pythagoras knew 3, 6, and 9 and was onto it, and so was all of the math and all these religions, but we didn't have the vibrational pattern of them until 1938 on this earth. And then we realized that the vibrational patterns that we thought were 3, 6, and 9 were in fact missing, and we just found 3, 6, and 9. Why is that? Because we were not capable of the understanding of anything past 7 as a chakra. And as we're expanding our consciousness, we're now placing another chakra above the head outside of the body, and no one's giving that a number yet. And then there's another one that people are starting to talk about now that has just happened. Those two have just been added to the tree, but they haven't been numbered. Why? Because instinctively, instead of saying 8 and 9, instinctively, the human race is waiting to find out what those are. No one is numbering them. There's still 1 through 7. But people are saying there's a couple below and a couple above, and nobody is saying those are the numbers of those. You know why? Because they instinctively know that 1 through 7 is wrong. It's 3 through 9. The two below are the first and second chakras. The two above are what? 10 and 11, and there's another one, 12. We haven't expanded the consciousness to the perception as a whole, and I have, and some of us others have. And that's why you keep seeing people adding the 12. Well, that's where it ends. The whole thing then revolves back on itself because of the Pythagorean theorem and the way 3, 6, and 9 works. You're absolutely right. And that is the perception of the entire universe and the laws of everything in it except us. Accept us. We are completely outside the bounds of all the laws of all the multiverses, because we are the creator. We are creating this. So this only goes to 9, and then it is controlled by an outside source that keeps it from expanding out further and keeps it in the toroidal field that makes up all of this illusion in every aspect of it. But the controlling factor is the one who is outside of this. Where does that one reside then? That one resides above 9. That one resides above 12. That one resides above 15. Outside. And truthfully, I believe, and I've said this before, and many of you have said the same thing, that it's not above the 15, that it is the 13, which is the 1. So it's literally 12. Okay, so 3, 6, and 9 is the charm of making for the 3D reality, which is an in the ancient Irish, but not in the Gaelic, but not in the Welsh. In the Welsh, it's just slightly different. And that is all that it is nature and of time space. Do heed my intention. That's the 9. 3 plus 3 equals 6. That's my intention, plus the nature and time space, that equals 6. That is me. That is a potentiation of something. And then I take my 3 again and add it to the 6, and it becomes the 9. We know that's the Higgs boson. That's the creation. That's the God particle, the creation, the logos. But then when you create with that, what is that? Now, if I add 3 to that again, what is it? It's 12. Yes. Thank you, Peter. It's 12. Okay. But that is the manifestation in the physical of something that you are manifesting. You're still outside of that. This is the realization of 5D. You're still outside of that 12. You can create to the 12. The 12 is logos and creation and manifestation in the third dimension. But you are still outside of that, creating that. So where are you? If you're not 12, then where are you? Because 12 is the creation and manifestation in this place of your will. So your will is outside of and above 12. Has to be. That's 5D realization moving to 6D realization. Okay? And I can't say any more than that right now because I tried. Ra tried to explain the concept as well. I know that there is more, and I could explain it probably on a personal level with individuals, but I can't say it out loud. They won't let me go to the 6D. They won't let me do that because the society, the entire hive mind species that is on this earth currently is not capable or able to understand that. So or understand this. So they won't let me say it because it's not even, people don't even know 369 yet. So the whole of the earth is just barely able, some of you out there are able to get this, but they won't let me say anything further than that because that's going to infringe on the law of free will and the veiling for people that would have access to hearing this. Okay. And this is what Ra's talking about right now. So everything that I just said to you for the last, 40 minutes or whatever about this is actually what Ra's trying to explain right here in this section that I'm telling you about. So some of you are like, well, what does this have to do with the law of one, bro? And what we're talking about right now? It's exactly what Ra is saying right now, currently. But Dawn's not getting that. He's not understanding it. He's not understanding it. And that's the problem. That's why I'm writing that in my book. The problem is that you try to understand something. That is 3D thinking, and you cannot. You have to understand it. It has to go to your soul. It has to go to your heart. It has to go to your chakras, not to your mind, not to your ego. So you have to get out of the mindset of understanding anything because you're not supposed to stand under it, under my spell. That is what that means. Do you understand me? That means, do you bow to my will? You need to get away from that thinking and understand things. You have to understand it. You have to get it in your soul. And I don't mean that by force, because nothing can get into your soul without, right? Peter is going with the math again. He said, I just need to put it into question within, right? And he's talking about within toxins within your body to get them out. And he's talking about the 3, 6, and 9, right? Is 12. It is, right? I mean, 3, 6, 9, all the numbers are divisible by 3. 9 is only divisible by 9, and 3 and 6 are divisible by 3. And that's the Pythagorean theorem. And that all other numbers are controlled separately. 3 controls one half of the numbers, and 6 controls the other half of the numbers. If you know math, if you know that theorem, which is thousands of years old, that's actually, in a nutshell, the Fibonacci sequence, but without the golden mean ratio. The golden mean ratio is the 3, 6, and 9. That is the controlling factor of all the rest of the numbers. And only when 9, that number being the God particle, the infinite wisdom, infinite energy, infinite potentiation, when you then utilize that, it becomes the logos. And when you utilize that to actually co-create, you then are expanding to 5D because you are realizing that you are at least outside of that, and that's 5-dimensional thinking, not 4 or 3-dimensional thinking, because of where that's going. And that's as far as they'll let me push that. I'm trying to push that to get people to realize that, and I'm having a hard time shoving it all the way to the 12 in words right now. Not because I can't say that because it's not in my head, because it is. I can't say those words out loud because that is the just barely where the consciousness is starting to unpack for the entire human race that is capable of hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth currently. So that as far as they will let me go with that, with words to the planet currently. Some of you who pop in and are leaving, it's because what I'm saying right now is not resonating with you, and you're like, that guy's fucking crazy and he's talking some crazy shit. He's not even talking about the law of one. Right? And that's why you guys are some of you are leaving. But those of you who are still here, this is what Ra's saying. Let me start playing some more, and you'll see.
Intelligent energy expressed in nature, awareness of the intelligent energy expressed in self to be shared, when it seems appropriate, by the entity with the social complex, and you have one infinitely subtle and various set of distortions of which you may be aware, that is, distortions with respect to self and other selves, not concerning free will but concerning harmonious relationships and service to others as other selves would most benefit. 18.7 Questioner, as an entity in this density grows from childhood, he becomes more aware of his responsibilities. Is there an age below which an entity is not responsible for his actions, or is he responsible from the time of birth?
See, now here, Dawn dropping it down to third dimensional thinking. He's spiritually, Dawn was not really awake. He was acting as a scientist. So let's continue.
Ra, I am Ra. An entity incarnating upon the earth plane becomes conscious of self at a varying point in its time/space progress through the continuum. This may have a median, shall we say, of approximately 15 of your months. Some entities become conscious of self at a period closer to incarnation, some at a period farther from this event. In all cases, responsibility then becomes retroactive from that point backwards in the continuum, so that distortions are to be understood by the entity and dissolved as the entity learns.
Okay, so that right there is trying to explain how time perception happens in this place. Did you hear what he just said? Once you become self-aware, then that distortion literally expands itself in time so that you have the concept of beginning, middle, and end, past, present, and future. Okay, so that is the way it works here. So if I come here as an alien down to Earth, okay, this is what part that people don't get. When you join a planet, you still have to have a past. So if you join the planet and you keep your past of I came from another planet and I'm here on Earth now, and you tell that story to everyone, that's accepted, and you're coming there legally. The same would be said as if you were born as a spirit into a body on that planet. You're coming there legally. Okay, I'm not coming here. And then if I'm coming here legally from that perspective, and I'm here as a hostile in third dimension to take you over, then what happens is that'll instantly change the polarization of someone or the society to be afraid of me as an invader. Do you see? Now, if I come in with a lie and say to you, these people are chasing me and they're bad guys and they're coming to get you, and I got here first to warn you about it, and it turns out I lied and I'm here to take over your entire planet, and I utilize that Hegelian dialectic to say, give me total planetary control and I'll save you. And then when you do and it's solidified, I go, I am the, what we would call in the Judeo-Christian, Western Judeo-Christian ideology, the Antichrist. That will also solidify a large population of the earth to fight against me. But if I come here with that intention and the intention of not bringing my past with me, but integrating, and this is part of the temporal war that is 5D thinking, so it's hard for people to wrap their heads around. If I come here with an invading army and I pretend that I'm here to save you and to help you, but my intention is not to physically take over your earth by force, but it is to take over the earth, then when I get here, I have to solidify myself with a past, a present, and a future. This is the temporal war. This is something that it will expand your consciousness to 5D thinking, at least 4D thinking, because this is real. This is the modus operandi of the Orion Crusaders, what they got here. They came here legally and said they were here to save everyone, to get boots on the ground. And when they did, they were not infiltrating as a army that is taking over with physical ships. They were integrating into the earth. They were the vampire asking to come in. And once the door was opened and they got here, they didn't bring their past with them. So the past that they were manifesting, using their will, 369 ideology, going past that, they were manifesting themselves on this earth throughout time. So it appeared that they've been here for a very long time, and they started making changes because you now have the power of the Logos over the planet that you're on. And so they literally changed things in the past instantaneously that changed things in the now instantaneously. This is the outside of the box, way outside of 3D thinking, into the 4D and pulling you into 5D realization that I know about. Why? Because I came here with a group of people that came in the same way. Only we came in legally in lowering our vibration and being inserted into human form, hoping with all hope that we will wake up and remember that we're here to do something and to right what has been wronged on this earth and repair time. And that's what those of us who are wanderers, if you're a wanderer, this was your mission as well, but you don't know it unless you do. Not just that you were here to raise the vibration and help everybody, you were also here to repair the damage done in time. I've known this for a long time, and I've been alluding to the temporal war, but not explaining it until I knew that I was in a place that that everyone else would also be able to accept and to get. And now the society of this earth is in a place that you need to know this information because of what they have planned going forward as the Hegelian dialectic and a possible, they did with COVID was the example of them trying the possibility of an alien invasion. And the reason that I can tell you this is because you saw COVID, and if you're in the mindset or have the ears to hear, the eyes to see, you'll see that was the exact same thing. Okay, that was the Hegelian dialectic, which is the plan of the alien invasion. So I'm trying to help expand your consciousness to that realization and possibility of, and what's going on is that some of us are here not just to fix and give you back your free will, but we're also here to fix things that were changed in time during the temporal war. They're already gone. They left, ran away. The bad guys ran away. But the damage that they've done to the vibration of this earth still resonates. And so it needs to be fixed. And that's why so many of us have come. Because we have to repair this and expand your consciousness back to where you should be currently, had they not changed the vibration of this earth, and that changing having a ripple effect in all directions in time. You are the 0 point of the splash of the drop of water, and your past and your future and all possibilities is the rings that are expanding out from 0 point. Here's a parable to explain what I'm saying. We came here after they did, and now we're chasing backwards and forwards in time and in this presence the memory of the damage that they've done and repairing that throughout time. And you guys should be, all of this planet should be in the realization already past the point of my explanation to you now. The good thing is for you guys out there on the planet is that you're capable of hearing these words come out of my mouth currently. Okay? Yeah, I know, Anna. We were just laughing about this. I was just laughing about this with you last night and Cassie the night before, right? Anna says, "I'm like, hurry them up." Right? She's like them up there. Just hurry up, everyone. Healing has to happen now. Patience is not a strong point. That we joke about that, guys. Those of us who are awake, we joke about those people that we contact that are off world. That are part of the councils, or literally the Council of Planets or the Council of Venus, which is the reason why they've chose Venus, by the way, is that Venus is the planet of love. So the vibration of love is Venus. And so that's where the council is, because that's the vibration of love in this solar system, by the way. and what is that? What, the sixth chakra of this solar system? What? Look at those numbers again. Where's Venus? Is that the sixth planet in the solar system? We're the third planet, and that's the sixth one, right? Or are they a little bit further away? While the perception is a little askew, but it is the sixth chakra. Okay, so yeah, we laugh about that because they're not in time space, they're in space time. Okay, time space is here, where time has a past, present, and future, and everything doesn't happen now. And everybody out there in the Galactic Council is in the now because they're in space time. Only time space happens in third dimension only, everywhere in the universe. First and second dimension. But first and second dimensional beings only happen on a planet that is capable of giving you third dimensional life, usually, not always. So time only exists really, truly, as a perception in first or in third dimension, or in second dimension when people become aware of themselves. They usually only become aware of themselves in the perception of time in a third dimensional planet. So if you become aware of yourself, I know I'm getting into semantics. If you become aware of yourself and you're on a planet that doesn't support third dimensional life, you won't have the perception of time. You'll just have the perception of presence, of self. And then when that cycle ends of the life of whatever it is that you are, the next time you're born, you will be on the next nearest third dimensional planet. So time, linear time, as crazy as it sounds to you out there around the planet hearing my voice, only exists in the third dimension. That's it. Outside of that is space-time, not time-space. Space-time is a place where time does exist, but it is not the ruling factor like it is here. So your perception of what's happening is now. Right now. Everything is now. Past, present, and future is all right now. You meet somebody and you go, hi, you know everything about them. You know what they're going to do, what you're going to do. And that whole concept is 5D thinking. So it's hard for you to get. It's pushing the boundaries now for me to even say that. Right? Yeah, Anna says, she says, what did you say? She said, I'm saying, or they are saying Pluto is no longer included in the teaching of our children with this solar system. I'm offended by that, right? I know, because, yeah, Pluto is no longer a planet. Well, that's because Pluto was 9. Wasn't it 9? Pluto was 9. So they're trying to take away the 3, 6, and 9. Pluto was the 9th planet. So and then there was X planet. So they're trying to say Pluto is no longer a planet. Why? Because that solidifies the mindset of 3, 6, and 9 to know that there are 9 planets in the solar system, and that plays into the Pythagorean theorem, and that plays into the 3, 6, and 9 and everything else. So they have to take care of. They have to eradicate that. You have to take something out. And so they're like, well, Pluto's not really big enough. That's the Englishman that went up the hill and came down the mountain. It's the same thing. It's not a mountain because we say it's not high enough. It's not a planet because we say it's not big enough to technically, legally, empirically, there's all those words again that they use, coincidentally, not large enough to be considered a planet. But there's other moons that are larger than that they still won't call a planet. Well, I'm sorry, wait a minute, what? There's other moons that are large enough to be called a planetary body, so orbiting very large planets in the solar system. And so because of that, they're like, well, those are just moons because they're in orbit around a big giant planet. So technically, that's not another planet. It's a moon because it's in orbit around a big giant planet. And Pluto is only in orbit around the sun. And it's smaller than even those moons, so it has to be considered a moon. That's that bullshit logic that science tries to use to confuse you, to say to you it's okay to call the Earth a planet when there are moons as big as the Earth around some of these really big, huge planets, but they don't call those planets. So by that thinking, Earth isn't a planet either. Whoops, never mind that now. Never mind that now. We live on Earth, and Earth is the center of the known universe. So Earth is a planet. So, but Pluto, little teeny Pluto is too small, and that's not a planet. Why? Because without Pluto, we only have 8 planets. Unless we buy into their ideology that there's a 10th planet, which now becomes the 9th planet, which is the one that the fake race of the Anunnaki that we just created in 2012, that those people live on that one, and that they're about to come back in their spaceships because they haven't evolved in the 3,500 years since they're out of our orbit or able to reach us with their spaceships. And they haven't evolved at all in 3,500 years, and they're going to come back to get the gold that they invented us to get. So that you have to believe that, right? Come on, let's be serious. Those people were here supposedly 3,600 years ago, and then 3,600 years before that. So I'm to believe that in 6,000, 7,000 years, this species has never had any advances whatsoever, and there's still a warlike species that is hopping around the solar system trying to get gold for their planet or to put up in their atmosphere because they've destroyed their atmosphere. And in 6,000 years, they still haven't figured out how to fix that shit. And they're going to come back to Earth, and they're going to come here and say, we're your leaders and we're your creators, worship us as gods. And it's taken 6,000 years. And we've gone from cavemen, supposedly stupid monkeys, in only 3,000 years to going to space. But they can't. The people who created us, that are made us in their image with their DNA, that sped us up and allowed us to, in less than 3,000 years, go from loincloths and burning wood in a cave to the moon. But they, who are more advanced than us, who gave us a little bit of their DNA to make us stupider, but able to do the job of being a slave, that made us able to go to the fucking stars. But they, where I'm supposed to believe, haven't in any way did any advancements spiritually or in a physical way in 6,000 years, and they're about to return and tell us that they are in charge of us because they created us, and that they are still egoic and stuck in third dimensional level. Really? I'm supposed to buy that. And you are too. Do you actually fathom that? Think about that. We were in covered wagons in the United States 100 years ago. Well, okay, 100 years ago, we were driving little automobiles. 150 years ago, we were covered wagons in the United States. We went to the moon in less than 100 years. Space travel, we humans. And we're supposed to attribute that to the Anunnaki, who came here and gave us some of their DNA. So if their DNA is the only reason that we have gone from caveman and a dumb lizard brain to the moon in 150 years, we're supposed to believe that our creator race in 6,000 years, 7,000 years hasn't evolved at all. And that they're coming back here to control us and attack us and eat us or enslave us again. Do you realize that by its own nature, if we only evolved the way we did because of their DNA, would suggest that they would evolve exponentially the same in that same time period, because our DNA, according to the people who say that these people created us, is the only reason that we know what we know. The entire ancient alien theory. And trust me, I know all of the people that were on this television show. The only one I have never spoken to is Childress. Otherwise, every single person you've seen on that television show, I have personally spoken to. I am friends with. We are friends on Facebook, and they are on Ancient Aliens Worldwide in that group that I created in 2012. And some of them, many of them, have been on my live show, Orion Rising, produced by me on Ancient Aliens Worldwide. We're actually was just talking earlier this morning about planning 3 more videos with 2 of the 3 of the people that have been on the show on Ancient Aliens Worldwide currently in the last year, again, and then some other people on top of that. Okay, in the works for the future, right? So coming up, going through the summer here and into the fall, you're going to see probably 1 or 2 more shows that I will produce for Ancient Aliens Worldwide live with people from the television show coming back to speak. Okay? Just know that. Literally, that we were talking about that this morning at 9 a.m. this morning. My time, I was talking to Mandy Wilson, who is the person who is the curator and that runs Ancient Aliens Worldwide, that I created in 2012. It was the first Ancient Aliens group on Facebook that I had permission from Giorgio Tsoukalos and History Channel and Zachariah Sitchin. No, not Zachariah Sitchin, but what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Wrote the Chariots of the Gods. They gave me permission to actually make that group. And then they just gave everybody permission, and now there's a bunch of groups called that. But that's my point, okay? We have 300,000 members we just hit. We're very proud of that. We just hit 300,000 members in that group like last week. And that took us, we were at 200,800, between 200,000 and 800 and 200,000 and 900 for like 3 years, trying to break the 300,000 barrier. And every time we got close, Facebook would delete 70 or 80 or 100,000 of our members and claim that they were always just inactive accounts or fake accounts. We're just getting rid of them for you. Not a joke. So finally, we actually hit that. And we're waiting now, waiting for the shoe to drop, where Facebook just drops us under 300,000 members again. It's like they can't have anybody go over that. Although there is one other UFO group that's got 500,000 members. And I'm like, okay, so what did you guys do different? That you must not have pissed off Facebook in some way like we did, because they let you guys grow. Okay. So my point here is that the expansion of your consciousness is literally, Roz trying to explain that, and I'm trying to explain that that can't be true. And the only way that they can keep us from reaching 4D and 5D is literally taking away one of our planets from us so that we don't have the 9th planet there. And if we add the 9th planet, it can only be this invading army that they keep telling you about. Why? Because they have in the works, going all the way back to 1994. Okay. I've been told this, not back then, but I was told this by people that they knew about it going all the way back to 94. And if you go back far enough to Werner von Braun, when he was leaving the program, he said and told about the progression of the world and how they had it planned going forward up to and including an alien invasion. And all of that has happened. He predicted the Vietnam, the Korean War, everything that has happened, he said, was a part of a plan. We had that interview that we put on Ancient Aliens Worldwide 7 years ago. At the same time, between 2012 and 2016, between 2012 and 2017, we literally had Lockheed, Martin, and Lear. Those were last names of people who owned companies that were building airplanes for the United States government. And that they were literally came out and said, we're literally building. In fact, Dr. Stephen Greer quoted them. One of the guys quoted them on his show. And that's how he was doing that for those of us who knew, to be validated in what he was saying. And he literally said, like E.T. said, everything, and Dr. Stephen Greer said this, that Star Trek, all of that stuff, we've either already done or we've decided that it's not worth being done. That was a quote from one of those gentlemen, and I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, from Lockheed, Martin, or Lear. In fact, it was really, truthfully, all of them. I'll say that. They all contributed in some way to that. And Dr. Stephen Greer just said that again on his live. And one of the guys followed that up. The older gentleman that was talking about in the 40s and 50s also followed up with information and words being said in a way that would tell those of us that are in the know of this breakaway society and the deep state and all the super soldiers, that was to validate that he knew what he was talking about. There was other things too. I'm telling you those because some of you might be aware of them. I'm not telling you the others because we keep back information on purpose, and that people say things in a certain order, at a certain cadence, at a certain way that tells us that they're legit. This is done on purpose, guys. This is done on purpose. And so when I was listening to those guys talking, when they came out and they would say something that I know that they were saying on purpose so that we would get what they were saying or realize the esotericness of it, that was giving more validation to them in a way that most of you don't know about, in the eyes of people like myself who have been talking to insiders for 20 years or more. Okay. So I don't normally go down this road because I sound even crazier to another group of people talking about aliens. I sound crazy to another group of people talking about aliens, right? But all of this has to do with all of this. All of it is the same. All of it is one. That's the spiral. That's the Fibonacci sequence. That is the yin and the yang. That is the toroidal field that you guys are just starting to wake up to. The toroidal field. That is 3, 6, and 9. And that toroidal field is around you and every object. That is what they were referring to in the Jedi way as the Force. And that's why they were fighting so hard for the Jedi way to be just a movie and fans. Because literally back in the 70s, literally the books that were written by Spielberg, or not by Spielberg, by Lucas, were telling of 3, 6, and 9 and talking about that. Okay. The wave, X wave. What? Is that what you're just showing? No, you're showing scissors. Cut those strings. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. You guys are talking about. Right? It was and still is, and all based on lies, Anna is saying, and about all of that, and pulling the puppet strings of the people. She's referring to all of the stuff that the deep state is doing, the cabal or the powers that should not be, nefariousness, evil people, to keep you from the realization of 3, 6, and 9 in any way. But they want it all. They wanted all that information. They tried to steal it all from and understand every bit of what Nikola Tesla was saying, but they don't want you guys to know about it. Okay. And that's why Cassie said, and we've cut those strings. Fuck them. I love that, Cassie. That was good. But truthfully, that's the truth. That's what we're doing. That's what we're here to do, and we have done. We cut the ties that bind you. We already cut the strings of the control of the Orion Crusaders when they came here. They're gone. In fact, there were 23 total, including this solar systems, under their control from their invasion in this sector of the universe. And they used this as a fueling depot and restocking of weapons. You are the dwarves under the mountain that the gods created, that they made you and forced you make their weapons. And that was manifest in the religion of the Vikings as, in fact, that entire story, how many planets are there? How many realities are there in the Viking pantheon? 9 worlds, 3, 6, and 9, 9 worlds, 9 chakras. Okay. The 7 chakras that you're aware of in this reality is the human condition, plus the 2 below that. 9 worlds. And the 9th world, where is Midgard? Midgard is the 6th world. It is the center. It is where the humans live. That's the heart chakra. But that's also the base red ray root chakra, and that's the weird part of this reality. This reality is 3, 6, and 9. This entire third dimension is chakra 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is 3, 6, and 9. That is this toroidal field that makes up this dimension. And that's a 5D expansion again. It's 4D realization, 5D expansion. I'm pushing, again, the boundaries of what I can tell you. So Midgard, Middle Earth, according to Tolkien, is 3D reality. That is actually the heart chakra, but it is exactly all of that encompassing the toroidal field. What does the toroidal field encompass? From the heart chakra out. The heart chakra is 6. Do you see? So the red ray root chakra would be 1. The heart chakra would be 6, and your chakra that is above the third eye chakra is 9. That's if you count from 1 to 7. That's that. So you get the 7 part first, okay? And then you expand to the 3, 6, and 9. And then from there, you expand to the 12 and that pulls you in a way that allows you to get to the number 4, which is really hard for you to get. 4 is 4D. 4 is the 4D realization, and that is the 0 point, and that is the 1. That is 13. 1 and 3 is 4. Okay, that is 13. So when you push outside of 12 by 1, you go to 13, and 1 and 3 equals 4. Do you see? And 4 breaks down to 2. Wait a minute. What does that mean? Where is that? Where is 2? What is the 2 in the chakras? Oh, wait, it's not the chakras though. It's a representation of a life number, and that is an ascended number. That is the first of the ascended numbers, is the 2. That's the 11. 11 number is 1 plus 1 equals 2. So the 4 becomes 2. So 4D reality is through the 1. 1, you have to go through the center, the 6th chakra, through, and I'm getting real scary again. You have to go through 0 point. 0 point is looking within and looking without, is the realization of that you are above this toroidal field and that you are creation. That's 4-dimensional. So when you do that, you put yourself outside that. Where is that? That's above the 12, or it is the 12. Okay. And then when you go above that, because you realize that is the creation and creating, so there's still an entity above that. That is one place above that. That is the 13. That equals 4, and 4 breaks down to the 2. And the 2 isn't the second chakra. The 2 is the life number. It's the outside. It's the 5th dimensional being. It's the first ascension of the 5th dimensional being, which is the 11 number, which is the 2. And the next number, it's what? 11, 22, and 33. 33, wait a minute, 33 vertebrae in your spine. 33 years when Jesus' ascension until his crucifixion. Hold on, where's Leo going with this? I'm trying to pull you up into the 5D as high as I can now. Okay, some of you are in the crowd now. I bet you the crowd's down to like 4 of you now. The 4, it's 5. It's just and I know what the 5 are. And so I think this is why I'm able to pull higher. But I can't go too high because I know this is going out to the rest of the world as well. Okay, so you guys are allowing me because the majority of you that are here are capable for this understanding. So how you get to the 4, when I asked Jacqueline this the first time, she got the 4 immediately as the 1. And when I said, yes, how did you do that? 0 point ideology. 0 point is the center of the toroidal field. And in science, they try to teach you that is the lack of all energy, so it is nothingness. Well, it is too. It is as well that, because where is the creator? The creator came out of nothingness. That is 3D or 6D thinking now. That's what is hard for people to understand or understand, that the 0 point. Thoth says the way to heaven or to the God is through to the center. And he uses the analogy of the earth again, the inner sphere. The earth is the inner sphere. So through the center of the world is the way. Okay, so the center of the world is inside. So it's inside of you. The 6th chakra is your heart chakra. The center of you is your heart chakra. The center of creation is your heart chakra. So that is the 1. That is the very first ascension to the first level of master ascension. Right? Ascended master first level is the heart chakra and the realization that you are the creator. That is the 11. That is the 11. That is the 2. That is 4. So the 4, so going to the 13, the realization is 1 plus 3. That is 4, which goes down to the 2. That is the same. That is all the same, being represented in a different way. Okay. Right. Well, I'm aware of that. I'm going to read what. Let me put my glasses on. Yes. Anna just got this. Okay. I'm going to put this up on the screen for those of you who can see it, who are watching this in 4D, and I'm going to read this to you for those of you who are in 3D. Anna just said. She says, "I just got told, be cautious, as they are going to change their tactics to implement these what is that? Slaves? No, these selves. I don't know what you're trying to say there. Implement these as the good guys. Oh, okay. As these selves as the good guys when they are not. We all need to stand in our own truth and unite as one, to band together, to look through and post these certain ones to call. And now, yeah, themselves, I think is what she was saying, themselves. And it came through as 2 words. Agreed, Penny. Thank you. So let me start over and read that as 1 word. I was trying to read each word individually to make sure I got it right, but you're right. She was trying to say themselves. It was a typo. So let me start over. Anna says, I just got told to be cautious as they are going to change their tactics to implement themselves as the good guys. That's the Hegelian dialectic, and that's their MO. That is what they normally do. So to get back to what she says, to the good guys, when they are not, we all need to stand in our truth and unite as one, to band together, look through and past those certain ones, to call them out as certain ones are gathering souls, which give them power. This is the absolute truth. I'm glad that you're bringing this up. So let me go back to what she says. She furthers that with, sorry, they wouldn't let me change the wording, right? I understand why that. If you look at that, I get that. I think that's an algorithm thing. It wouldn't let me change the wording. Souls means the innocent ones that are looking for answers, that feel lost here on earth, not in death. I just had to elaborate. Yes, Anna, that's actually our mission, and why they're saying it's so important that myself and other people that came with me with the coalition and the other wanderers they want us to speed up wars, because they are aware, as we are aware, that as we become aware of this scenarios and our expansion of our thinking, just like the devil first was the Lucifer and then became Satan and is now morphed into the AI God, they are also going to morph their modus operandi into a possibility of this alien invasion, which is the Hegelian dialectic, which is why I'm trying to tell people about this, and other people, including Dr. Stephen Greer, who just said that literally again. And he's been telling people since '94 about the same thing, that we are aware of that. They're trying to manipulate everybody to get to the point. And see, now the crowd is like 3 of you. This is happening on purpose, because some of these people are just like, he's crazy and I'm out of here. But this is going out to the rest of the world. It will be out there for the world to see and find and hear. Okay, so literally they're going to change their tactics going forward, because we are pinning them in and they have no other recourse but to do this now. And so literally everything that they're doing is going to do that. People are asking the questions out loud. What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to look to? And so that's why they're like, hurry the hell up, speed up horse, because you guys have to be in a place to be able to start answering these questions, so that we have the opposing point of view when they pop this fucking thing out there. And that's exactly what they're warning you about and wanting it to be told. So I'm glad that they said that, because that's what I was getting at. And they literally were like, say this. And I was trying to get to that. And every time I was getting to it, they kept pulling me back. But when the crowd got small enough, all of a sudden you were tapped and said, no, tell him to say it now, because he can get the words out there. So there was enough of us in here right now, high enough level to allow me. And that's why I said that. We're at a high level now where I can get this out. So literally by us being able to push this out, it's now going out there. And there was nobody here at the time listening to this to be witness to it. But now that we manifested that and we pulled people to that 5-dimensional thinking, I literally was able to say that. So, and then that crosses back down to the 3rd-dimensional ideology. Know that they're going to change their tactics, and the tactics are going to be that of the savior characters. And that's part of in the Bibles, that are the Antichrist, that they're going to be manifesting someone who's going to come to be the savior character and say, look, all of you are doing all of this, and there's all these evils in the world, and it all has to stop, and you all have to unite under me. And then after you do, this is the devil taking control of the earth for a time. This is Daniel. This is the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations, right? So on this 3D level, it's going to manifest in that way, and people have to be prepared for that, because it is the expansion of the consciousness into the 5D thinking. But it's going to manifest in the 3D for people who are in that 3rd-dimensional level. That's going to be the rapture. It's not going to be that everybody's going to disappear and die and go to heaven because Jesus is returning to take you there. You are going to uplift your vibration and shift your consciousness and the timeline itself into a different consciousness and a different timeline, where all of us are going to be in, and it's going to shift, and no one's going to be aware of it except for the people who shifted in the other timeline. And those are going to be the only ones that are going to be believing that the world is going to be destroyed and that evil is going to control it. And they're going to witness that happen to them, because that's what is going to manifest for them. And all the people that are innocent, that know nothing about any of this, they're not going to be stuck in that reality. That's not how it works, because you're not held responsible for something that you don't know yet or can't fathom yet. So the people that aren't aware enough to fathom that they're going to shift with us into this reality where it's safer for them, unless they have signed on to go through that kind of strife. This is the temporal war and the 5D, 6D spirituality that I'm coming into play here that some of you probably won't get by me talking about, but I am going to have to go because it's getting late and I need to start doing dinner. So I wanted to get that out there to you for you guys to know and hear. That just know going forward, we don't try to manifest the negative thoughts because that will manifest quickly into them doing these things. So a lot of the prophecy we don't tell you guys about because we don't want to scare you, but the Christianity has been to the point where they're teaching all of this, be aware that this nasty stuff's going to happen, and that's manifesting because of it in the 3D, because people are focusing on that. Oh no, I'm afraid, because that was part of the corruption of all the churches, was to get everybody to manifest guilt and fear, and that's unfortunately where they're at. If you pay attention, they're all telling you, look out, it's the end days and the Satan is coming and he's going to destroy the earth and he's going to control the earth, but just know that at the end of it, it's going to be okay. They're hoping they can change that while it's happening and convince everybody the opposite. That's what they're betting on, the bad guys. They're betting on manifesting it, and as it happens, then they're betting on manifesting and getting all of you go to the point of surrender to us, and we will give you a better way of life to take control. That's what they're counting on. And that's the false prophets that have been warned about. Be careful, because the false prophets are going to try and tell you everything's going to be okay. So that way, when we say that to you, they go, the false prophets, he's a false prophet. I just know it. And then you manifest the fear again. And you go right back into the realization and belief in your ideology that Satan is coming to get you, and that you keep waiting for Jesus to return to help you. And that's not going to happen, because Jesus never said he's going to return to come and get you. That was the corruption of those religions, to get you to believe, to wait and wait and wait and go, he'll come, he'll come, he'll come, he'll come. He's not going to come in that form, people. You need to know that. And by me saying this, I'm going to lose all your Western Judeo-Christians that are zealots. You guys are going to turn me off and say I'm freaking crazy. I have two ministry titles from two Christian religions, the Catholic religion and all other Christian religions. Okay? I literally, as a Catholic, I am knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic See, which gives me the ability of a monk, of a paladin, of a minister. I can't be called a priest in that religion because I didn't go to their seminary. Then on all other Christian religions that are non-Catholic, I went to the Universal Life Church in Phoenix, Arizona, and got ordained a minister. So in all the rest of the world of Christianity, I am whatever you want to call me, that is a father, padre, minister, whatever. I just can't be called father in the Catholic religion. Okay, I could be called bishop. I could be called whatever in whatever Christian religion, if you're a follower of Christ. And then I have the title as a Merlin, and I also have the title of a Jedi. So those are other religions. Jedi's not a real religion, not officially in the United States or England, but everyone else in the world it is. You just don't know about it. There are people that are dying down in Australia and in that region of the world who have on their grave listed as Jedi, and that can happen in the United States too. So they won't officially admit that Jediism is a religion, but you can claim Jedi and put it on your tombstone if you're in the military. That means that they acknowledge it as a legitimate religion. Okay? Think about that. They also allow you to say you're a pagan now, that you're a Wiccan or a Druid in this country, because there's so many people around the world that are demanding it. They had to. Okay. So that's my point here. So the point is, if you focus on the negative and say, oh no, Antichrist, devil, destruction, third world war, all of that, that'll manifest. There isn't going to be a third world war in the physical sense. We've already changed that. We've already changed that and stopped the physical manifestation of the third world war. So now it's only ideology. We've moved it already in the consciousness of the entire race into a temporal war, into a war of time, into a war of consciousness, into a war of spirituality. We've already taken away the physical. So the physical is not going to manifest. It's only going to manifest in ideology. And so what they're going to try and do is utilize that to springboard into the physical by putting you back to sleep. Yes, Jesus is an ascended master who came in 12 different beings to share the truth of this, and also then had 12 apostles. He was the 13. That's 1 plus 3. That's 4. That's the 22. But he was a 33 ascended master. So it was above that, 33 vertebrae, 33 years of his life. He was above a 22. He was really above the 12, but he came at 12 different times and was the one who controlled and had 12 apostles, 12 times on this earth. And that is not a lie. Cassie's telling the truth. I have proven 7. And that was without the Buddha and Lao Tzu. Okay, so that's 9 already, and we're aware of, but we're not 100% positive of the rest. But 12 times, because those two didn't do a lot of the things like walk on water or turn water to wine. Those two specifically, but they did everything else. Okay, so they made the 12 times, and literally you have Ra. You have Amun Ra, right? You literally have Horus. You literally have Egyptian gods who did the same things, Greek gods who did the same things. Okay, so the hero character, the savior character, like Thor is to the Viking pantheon, is still doing the same thing, and that's why I say that all the stories are identical. On one level, there are stories for children, souls. And then there are stories for ascension, and there's an ascension and balancing your chakras in every part of all of these scrolls. And the more I read them, the more I become aware of them. And all of that changed in me about a year and a year and a half or a year and 8 months ago. And I've kept that quiet because every time I said to somebody, hey, I can translate the scrolls, everybody said to me, oh, yeah, me too, man. Isn't that weird? Yeah, no, I just am able to do it now. But I don't see anybody writing a book about it. And I don't see anybody going and trying to say that to the world, because you'll come under scrutiny. So I'm saying it to the world because I am not afraid of scrutiny. I've literally spent a year and 8 months making sure that I actually got what I thought I was getting. And I am currently to the point of my realization that I am not afraid, and I will stand up to scrutiny by claiming that I can actually tell you what all scrolls and all books of all tomes on this earth are actually trying to tell you. And I just did. It is the key and the door and the way of ascension that you unlock that everyone else has been telling you throughout time. It's all there. But you can only understand it. You cannot understand it. You can only ever unlock the knowledge when you start your ascension, being in service to others. Period. End of story. For those of you who are in service to self and you think I've made all of this up, you are not capable of understanding anything I am saying, and it is your nature and it is not your fault. And I don't hold anything against you. It is completely not within your nature to even fathom what I'm saying now. So you will think I am absolutely insane or I am delusional and making this all up. And that's all you will ever think until you start your ascension and choose and repent. That's a nautical term, not a term for a religion, by the way. You guys created that term in your religion. Repent your ways. That means to reverse your course exactly back on itself. So when you decide to be no longer in service to self, and you decide to literally repent your ways, give up that way of existence for your soul, and you decide to become in service to others, that is the day of your darkness, your darkest hour, your dark night of the soul, and your ascension begins from that moment forward, and you will begin to naturally unlock the ability to understand, not understand, everything that I have said here today and every other day that I've spoken. And eventually you will unlock within yourself the ability to understand what all scrolls and religious tomes on this earth are truly trying to tell you, that has been corrupted and stolen from your memory in history. And I am here with a group of people, most of you are in the audience right now that I can see, are here with a larger group of people, a very, very large group of people, bigger than you can imagine, more than half of the human existence on this earth. are here to help the other half of the humans on this earth. That's how many. In 1981, the population of the human race was 2.7 billion souls. In 2023, today, as I'm speaking to you, we are 7.8 billion souls. 40 years. And from 40 years ago, the amount of people on this planet is more than doubled. In all of your dusty tomes, it is the time of trouble and tribulations when all of the souls, the well of souls is emptied back onto the earth. Here's my Christian doctrine and Hebrew doctrine coming out. All of the souls in the well of souls from purgatory will be back on the earth where they will all be born, for the time of the end is near. So even if you're only in 3D and you're listening to your own religion and all of the scrolls in third dimension around this earth, this is the Kali Yuga. This is the Ragnarok. This is the time of troubles. This is the revelation. This is the time of tribulation. Whatever your dusty tome calls this time period is and has been happening for over 50,000 years on this earth. So it's not just been this generation, which is what some of you think. It's not. It's not. When your dusty tomes were written, it was still now. It was already now. Okay? Your linear time and your perspective is what's had you thinking that it's not until this moment. But people in the past, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, were going through what you're going through right now and realizing, oh no, this is happening now. All those things they said in the religion from 5,000 years ago is happening right now. And they were getting it. Those people, every time they've gotten to that level of understanding, when they've died, could have left, but chose to come back and redo this again to help. Ra tells about this. That out of the last 2 cycles, the only people who left were one person off this earth, and that was in service to others. Many in service to self have bailed and got out of here as soon as they can. The only people who have been harvested off of this earth, besides one good soul, has been in service to self only. They run as soon as they can. I'm not doing that again. I'm taking the power I have and I'm going to the next dimension, to the 4th dimension, where they start at the bottom. For instance, according to Ra, for instance, Genghis Khan, one of the most evil dictators in human history, is a patent clerk in an office currently. Or no, not a patent clerk. He's a file clerk in a law office in the 4th dimension. So he was one of the greatest evils in all of existence on Earth. And he graduated to the 4th dimension in the next level of ascension in evil. And there, he's a guy filing papers in a law office. That's all he is currently. Okay, bottom of the barrel on the evil side. And that's all he is. So for all of his greatness and all of the power and everything that he got, all he got was the bottom of the run of the next octave. That's it. Okay, and that's literally what happens to all of us. You leave here and you ascend and you go up to the next level, but when you're doing it on the service to others' side, it's completely different. And the ascension is solidified in a positive way, and you're able to then focus on learning things individually instead of the school where you're learning the many things, the general education. You then get to look at love and wisdom and that sort of thing individually as you move up. Okay. He is still in a place of evil where it's like 3D, only everybody there's more evil than there are good, and they're all fucking each other over, raping each other, pillaging each other, murdering each other, and trying to be as evil as they can. That's the way to purgatory. That's the way to hell. That's the true what they were trying to tell you about that existence as evil. When you get halfway through the 6th dimension, you can never, ever, 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 and I can say that for infinity times, ever go any higher. until you repent your ways and then become in service to others. And then you can then start your ascension from there. So purgatory, hell, the true place only exists in the spiritual, and it doesn't exist on earth. But everything is manifest as below, so above, as within, so without is manifest. So on earth, there has to be a form of that. And that's the same thing that happens when he gets back to that crazy part of the temporal war that I was telling you about. I love you guys. I got to go because I have to do dinner. Have a great night. I'll see you guys next week. And for those of you who ran away, you're already gone. Those of you who might have just tuned in, I hope you actually don't think I'm crazy and get what I'm saying. And if it resonates with you and you freak out and go, holy crap, I need someone to talk about, now I'm scared, contact myself. I'll work with you and explain it to you so that you won't be afraid. Because the truth is, when you really do reach the fourth level and you realize that concept, you actually will look back at the third dimensional dance as the perfection that it is. And you will literally not be afraid. But it's only when you release that in yourself and surrender to that infinite knowledge that you become the first level of ascension, the 2 or the 22 or the 11, I should say. You become the 11, and that's the first ascended master level. And then if you go higher than that to the 22 or the 33, you're doing great. And you'll then have an easier time to get to the 4D and 5D of this third dimension and transition to the 4D physical a lot faster. And I can't say much more than that because that's pulling you up to a realization that truly the earth isn't ready for yet. But going forward, know that this will become more apparent to you as we are more so telling you who we are around the world. You're going to get to know that because people are already starting to say that. One of the videos that I was talking about earlier that Anna gave Cassie, that Cassie gave me, literally is a guy doing that and showing you that 5D perspective of top-down look of being outside, the realization of infinite wisdom and infinity itself, that is the 9D, that is going above that to the 12D and that perception. So people around the world are telling you about that and expanding your consciousness, that we are everywhere on the planet and we are here to help and we are manifesting this, and that outside of this reality, it's already over long ago. But you just have to ascend to the realization of that as an entire species. And we're here trying to help the entire species get back to where it should be currently if the Orion Crusaders did not come here. And I said earlier, so if you were here long enough to hear me mention the 23 number, which you should look up that number, by the way, too, 23, that of the 23 solar systems in this part of the galaxy that were under their control, all of them are completely freed, except for 3. And they're not currently occupying those. The 3 that are still having issues are just being repaired, which is what we're doing here. They already left and ran away when we got here. They ran from us like a coward into the night, like the opposition always actually does, because they know that they cannot defeat us in any way. It's a stalemate. That's the best they can do, and it wastes all their energy, so they run. And that's what they've done. Okay. So we're just now repairing all of the damage that they've done. And you guys need to realize that. You need to understand that you are okay. It is okay. All of the worst of it is actually over long ago. You just have to accept that and trust, and you'll be fine. We'll be teaching you that as we go. I love you guys. I love you all. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I will see you guys next week.